So they have a new thing in Zoom called smart recording with AI assistance, which I have no idea what that is. I just press a button and it records. So I don't know what AI assistance and smart recording is. What I have no idea what that could be.
Are you
But
doing it right now?
no, I'm not. I just pressed the button. So
And use it about a month. You're not going to need any of us. It'll just basically replicate us, and you can talk to all
oh,
these.
see,
Yeah.
everybody talks about AI this and AI that, especially in our industry. It's all anybody could talk about. But honestly, I don't. It's not that great. It's if this is the state of artificial intelligence, frankly, I'm not too worried about Skynet because it'll probably be stepping over itself, trying to get out of its own way. AI is dumb. It's not smart. I mean, there are cool things that GPT can do, but it's not taking over anybody's job anytime soon, as far as I know. So I don't know. Maybe I'm an old guy railing at the clouds, screaming at the clouds, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem that capable. Seems to have more promise than anything else. But anyway, there's my old man rant of the day. So thank you. Let's talk about what happened last time. So last time we played, a lot of interesting things happened. So you guys, when we started last time, you guys were still having captured the woman who broke into and beat up Balin. And you had tried to interrogate her, and a lot of sketchy things. Basically, she had said she asked you to give her back her ring, which she said precluded her from talking because she couldn't speak without the ring because she had an old boss that gave it to her and was very security conscious, very paranoid guy. And he gave her this ring so that it was ever taken off of her, which he knew that she would happen if she was ever captured, that she would not be able to speak. Now she spoke with you guys using message and that kind of stuff, and basically explained a lot of things. But there was some gaps in the story, and one of the things that you guys did was you did identify on the ring, and it was a ring of Dimension Door with several charges on it, which she kept saying, "Look, I can't talk to you unless I have my ring." But it was essentially you guys assumed, perhaps rightly, that was a get out of jail free card for her, that she was desperately trying to get back. In any event, you didn't give it to her, and eventually became frustrated with her inability to, in your opinion, provide truthful answers to your questions. So you handed it over to Sergeant Hrelk of the Talons, and he said he would see what he would take her away to Talon headquarters and have her interrogated and see what could be found out.
You forgot that I said also, I'm pretty sure she had something to do with the king's assassination attempt. So
Well, she said what
there's
she
that.
had said was that she was hired to essentially kidnap Balin. Now, this was the night before you guys were supposed to go in front of the king. When you guys but there were some inconsistencies in her story. One, she said she was there to kidnap him only, but when you guys found her, she was, I mean, she had her hand around his throat, she was strangling him, and the other hand, she was beating the crap out of him. So it didn't look like a kidnapping to you guys. It looked like an assassination. But
It's BDSM.
it was definitely not the sort of kidnapping. You guys have seen kidnappings: big burlap sack over the head, bury them off. It doesn't have anything to do with choking or beating. So that seemed to strike a note. She said that when she was hired by Jas, who halfling guy down at the Velvet Rose, wanted to, and she said that she just was commissioned to kidnap the guy and bring him down to the Velvet Rose to talk to him, and that there was a period 4 hours later that she was supposed to be back there by with the quarry. Now, obviously, that wasn't going to happen, but you guys batted around the idea of, should we pretend to be her, do some disguise, charms, that kind of thing, and couldn't make it work because of the nature of the Velvet Rose. The Velvet Rose is largely, I mean, and I think the way I described it was, it's a private club without actually being a private club, but it plays host to a variety of less than savory characters. So I wouldn't say it's a gang hideout because more than one gang would probably be in there at any one time, but it's certainly a place where respectable people would not be seen. So, but in any event, you guys decided not to go down there. You handed it over to Hrelk, and that was the end of it. Then you went to that next morning was your petition in front of the king, and you guys went to the king's. You were brought to the king's palace by King's coach. Balin basically, you guys basically did everything that you could to assist Balin in petitioning the king to maintain good relationships with Sequin.
Yeah, we did pretty good too.
We did pretty good too, but however, there was in the end, it did not prove to be sufficient to sway the king. In fact, the king basically said, "Look, you have no idea what you guys are talking about." I have his words somewhere around here, but he basically said, "You guys have nothing. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. You guys have not suffered. You guys, he basically says, look, he says." Sequin has gone out of its way to pick a fight that is not ours, right? So we have, the Sargavan war is not our war here in the Bandu, and we are not going to get embroiled in it for foolish reasons, despite everyone's wish to get us involved in here, and even going so far as to kill 19 members of the king's family, which he brought up. We are not going. He said he believes that the people who want war with Sargava are the ones responsible for killing his family, and they're saying, look, they've gone so far as to kill the bulk of my family to try and get me in this war, and he's like, look, I am not going to do it, and to have you guys come here after what Sequin has done, and he looked over at Lady Naaman, and basically was like, look, Shalosha, Laura Beck, a very sort of vituperative anti-Sargavan public sensibility. He's like, look, it makes no sense for me to ally with you guys. You guys have, this is not my war. I'm not getting embroiled in it. And the fact that you want me embroiled in it makes you almost complicit in the deaths of my family, and I won't have it. He wrapped it up with said, I give you 3 days in my city. Perhaps in that time you can use some of your silver words to persuade the Sargavans to show you mercy. I truly hope none of you have to feel the same loss I have. But by leaping to war, you're calling such a wound down upon your house and your kin and yourselves. And he's basically saying, look, it's not my war. I'm not getting involved. But he also said, you've got 3 days to make your peace, but also 3 days to get out of Bresk. It was the unstated kind of thing that you become persona non grata here after that.
It was stated.
Yeah. So you're right. It was basically said get the heck out. So so that could have went better. And even Balin was said, hey, look, you guys did a great job. I'm very glad you were brought here. Frankly, I think you guys did a great job in front of the king. You guys saved my life on at least one occasion, probably a couple of occasions on the way here, which was, he goes, you guys have performed more than I could have possibly asked for. And our failure to advance the case of Sequin here in Bandu is, you shouldn't hold yourselves responsible. He goes, it sounds like the die was cast before we walked in. And he goes, nothing that I was saying was hitting home with this guy. So that said, you guys, leave the palace, get back in the king's coaches, and it takes you back to the Golden Griffin, and you find yourself no more than a couple 3 hours after you've left, back at the inn from when you came, and with the knowledge that your effort has failed, and so at this point we get to the point of like, so you have 3 days in town. What do you want to do? What is your plan? What do you think you're going to do?
We look at buying plane tickets to like Absalom, and then we're just going to start a new life up there.
Okay.
No.
You start over.
Right. And the other thing we found out from last time was
Mhm.
all these plans we had to trick or get close to Jas or whatever his name is.
Hmm.
We found out he knows who we are and what we look like. So we found out that all those would have failed because he knows very much of, knows very much about us, I guess, more than we thought.
Well, I mean, you're inferring that, but it does seem to be the thing. You're inferring that from something that that the
That the liar said.
that the yeah that the person you captured said, and she said basically that that she was only supposed to bring back Balin, and that she was supposed to avoid you guys
Yes.
as much as possible. So and you asked her, well, what does he know about us? And it was like, well, he knows pretty much everything. What do you what do you what do you think? I mean, so it wasn't yeah, so basically you're known to Joss, at least it sounds like.
So that being said, the diplomatic way failed. The infiltration way, which was going to be the Joss direction, that one's kind of DOA before we get started.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other connection we've got is the Sargovan said they expect us somewhere, which Arendar's all for not showing, even though he wants to talk to them and rub it in their faces. He's
Well,
all not showing up just to give them the finger and say, you do not tell us what to do, because if you tell us to do something, we're going to do the opposite just to spite you.
Now he's going to tell us the opposite of what he wants us to
I was
do.
going to say, whatever you do, don't come see me.
well, I think the thing was for last night, wasn't it? The meeting was for the previous night,
Oh,
if I
was it?
recall correctly. Yeah, 9 o'clock
I
the
thought it
night
was
before.
Oh,
No, it wasn't tonight. It was the night
yeah, we already
before.
blew that one off because we were like, don't tell us what to do.
Right, you guys weren't going. So, which is fine. Sure, that's fine. But
So we kill all the leaders and take over.
what was that, Gordon?
I said we should just kill all the leaders and take over.
Yes, let's do that.
Well, so there's a couple of things. So Balin is basically like, look, this is obviously not what we would have hoped to happen.
I mean, like the exact opposite.
Yeah,
Like,
the exact
not even
opposite.
close.
So sorry.
It's like don't put your like positive spin on it. Just be straight.
Yeah, no, it's a fail. We failed in our efforts to sway the king. In fact, if anything, this feels like
We found out it was worse than we thought, and it was already
the
done.
fix is in. Yeah, no. So there's a couple of things, yeah, going on.
Why don't we just pool our resources and enchant him?
The king?
Uh-huh.
Well, so that's another thing that was going on in the courtroom. I mean, you guys were or in the palace. Remember, you guys arrived a little early, and you guys were sort of off to the side, and they were interrogating Lord Gallows Man. And
little chick, wasn't it?
huh?
Wasn't there a little chick or a little?
Oh, you mean Nina Glibglammer?
Yes, that's it.
All right, so
That was annoying. That was somehow associated with the king.
yeah, she is she's the king's chamberlain, and basically his chief advisor. Now she's not a dwarf; she's a gnome. But
We're going to call her Umbridge from now on because that's
well, she was. So there was a very strange period during the thing when you guys had just arrived at the thing where she was interrogating this guy. So that Balin told you his name was Reldar or something like that. But he was a clerk for Lord Gallows' proxy representative here in things. So this goes back a little bit to the idea of like Lord Gallo is not here. Many of the lords are not here in person, but typically what they've always done is send what they call proxies, people that they know and trust, who can speak on their behalf, because the Bandu kingdoms are sort of very spread apart. Not everybody can be in Bresk all the time. So in this case, Lord Gallows' proxy, a guy named Ginnis, was arrested and thrown in prison for in one of the king's jails for treason. And so when you guys arrived, Glibglammer was interrogating pretty roughly too this guy who seemed at first glance seemed very confused, seemed sort of well, he seemed discombobulated. And the wizards in the party kind of looked at him, and basically, I think it was Titus who basically, or Avandrum, maybe both, who sort of surmised that this guy had been enchanted in some way or was suffering under some sort of spell. And there was some talk, as you guys sort of came to this conclusion, there was some talk in other areas of in the room that, this guy looks enchanted. He looks like maybe he's charmed or something like that. Could be anything. At which point, Glibglammer shifted gears right away, and began speaking to the king and said, "King, obviously this man is it's possible he's enchanted. It's possible he's under the control of somebody else. That is why," and she basically spun it to the idea of that is why he cannot tell us why Lord Gallo was involved in the murder of your family, why Lord Gallo wishes to seek the downfall of the king, all these things that he's been accused of. And so there's like saying we should conduct this interrogation somewhere else or continue it later after our spellcasters have had a chance to look at this guy and make sure that he's okay and that there's no that nothing is prohibiting him from testifying to the truth.
He might be someone to go find and talk to. Because I don't
As
necessarily
far
trust-
as you know, well, you know that the king that Ginnis has been put in one of Stephengard's prisons. There are several, but I mean, there's no secret as to where he's been imprisoned. It's probably this Reldar guy has been imprisoned with him as well. He might be in the king's dungeons underneath the palace if he's going to be interrogated or if he's going to be brought before the king and questioned again. But
I feel like we should have done a whole lot more sense motives when we were in there.
yeah, well, you do know that at least Ginnis, you know the prison that he's in. It's near the outer wall of the city. But yeah, Balin is like, honestly, I'm gonna go see the proxies. I'm gonna go see the proxies for our Lady Timor and Lord Dashgaban. They seem to be still in alliance with Sequin, and so I'm going to speak to them. If you want to come with, you're certainly welcome, but that's my plan. I'm going to try and make as good of use of the next 3 days as possible before we have to leave the city. That said, he sort of looks at you guys like I'm in a bit of a I'm in a bit of two minds as to where we should go. Part of me says we should go back to Sequin, inform Simeon and the Lyceum of what's transpired here, and try to make the council understand the danger that they are subsequently in, because the Sargavans are frankly, I think they're on the doorstep of getting access to the Elite Pass. I don't know that we haven't stopped anything.
No.
That's a waste of time. I mean, it feels like.
On the other hand, considering the charges that have been leveled at Lord Gallo, and understanding that Lord Gallo is a friend of mine, I can't help but think that maybe we ought to go there first and tell Lord Gallo what's happened. And he says, and to be honest, and he sort of leans forward, he's like, look, I'm leaning towards that we should go see Lord Gallo. And that being said, I can't help but think that we ought to try and bring his proxy with us. And that means maybe breaking him out of jail.
And that's Guinness.
Ginnis, yeah. Ginnis is Lord Gallo's proxy.
Guinness anyway. Trying to ascertain what the befuddled look was and who he was hanging out with and if he's indeed charmed or.
Yeah, see if he knows who was against him or who could have been doing that.
So breaking into prison it is, or is the man taking visitors?
He goes, I don't know if he's taking visitors. Maybe we can get in there. I will see. But you have connections with the Talons, right?
Well, with the,
Got one, yeah.
Maybe that maybe your friend that Sergeant Relk could maybe smooth the pathway.
We can take that avenue.
At that moment, there is a knock on the door, and you guys go over to the door and open it, and it is the messenger from downstairs. And she's like, delivery for you, message delivery for you. And it's a sealed wax thing. It looks very familiar to one you had. Balin takes it. He's like, thank you, and tips her a couple of silvers, and she walks out and tears it open and reads it, and he sort of goes, huh, and laughs, and he hands it to you guys to take a look at. And it says, the Sargavan ambassador Ceramus and his retinue wish to extend their sympathies at your lack of success during the petition of the king. Come by and see us before you leave the city if you wish.
nice.
So a little salt maybe from the Sargavans, but leaving the door open to go see them, even though you've missed their preliminary thing. If you recall from the prior notice, they are at the ambassadorial suite at a place called the Crown and Crest, which is a large sort of inn hotel kind of thing, very high end.
I have no interest in seeing them. Does anybody else?
I mean, short of killing them, no.
Yeah, if I go to see him, I want to try to kill as many as I can.
What if we could find out?
I'm the only one that
something
wants to go
useful?
talk just to like argue with them and give it back to them.
Eric, what were you saying?
Is there anything useful we might extract from these
Right.
Sargavan clowns?
Gold teeth.
Buy from truth. I mean,
I'm hoping they're super overconfident that they're doing so well that they will tell me or tell us something.
Yeah.
That can give us an additional path forward, since right now, other than jailbreaking a guy that we don't know, that's like our only path forward. So
Right.
I would like to go talk to them just to see if maybe we can learn something else that might give us another idea that gives us another path forward. Because I'm kind of drawing a blank right now as far as where we go from here.
You send
Sargavans have already tried to kill us, so I mean, they could very well. The only thing they might want with us is to get us in an isolated place to kill us, which would give us an excuse to kill them.
Well, I mean,
Balin, as you guys are talking about, Balin's like, la 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 la. When you guys are talking about, we could kill them and kill the ambassador if they try to kill it. He's like, whoa, no, I don't hear any of this. He would caution. So Balin would like, look, you guys know your business, and I wouldn't presume to step into it. But killing the Sargavan ambassador to the king after we had just been sort of taken to task from the king's petition.
That would be horribly bad in the big picture.
what about
Right.
a few non-lethal punches applied strategically to the ambassador? Would that be so bad? I don't know.
I guess it wouldn't be as bad as killing him, but I don't know,
right.
punching an ambassador.
I think there's a
Okay.
good chance it gets brought back or pinned on us. And if that happens, any kind of diplomatic process we were hoping eventually we could do is 110% out the door.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, Ono would not want to murder a guy in cold blood, but there's got to be something we can learn. I mean, how can it hurt us in any way to go talk to him?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to try and kill us, especially with like a handwritten note that invites us over there. And then if we showed up dead over there,
Right. So
those
you
of
know,
us here could basically make it just as big of a misstep for them as it would have been for us to go over there and try to assassinate them.
yeah. I vote we go talk to them, or maybe send a couple of us to split the party to go talk to them because I don't think they intend murder. I don't think
No, they're winning right now.
right. And I mean,
On the-
why would they invite us to taunt us? No.
Yeah.
Well, Ballin's like, wait a minute. I only, and he kind of smiles. He says, look, I only met you recently. However, I do know that you guys originally hail from Gate Pass. Is it possible that the Sargavans believe that you have committed crimes prior to coming to Sequin? And I'm thinking of maybe in Gate Pass. He's like, look, I'm not asking, I don't want an answer to that question. I'm asking it rhetorically because if the Sargavans, I mean, they may want to place you under arrest.
Do they have that authority here?
Sargavan ambassador? Technically, no. We're on Bandu. We're in the Bandu capital city. This is the king's territory, no question. But as we saw this morning, the king's sympathies certainly lie with, well, if not with Sargava, it's certainly not with us.
Right, and we don't want to cause a rumpus.
Not yet.
Not yet. I think we want to really be good citizens, as much for as long as we can do.
I mean, in the same vein, there's no way we can try to break somebody out of prison then either. Because
Yeah.
that's going to have the same effect essentially.
Yeah, that's going to be
We
hard.
try to do success or fail, that's going to make us pretty much outlaws in the city, in the country, really.
I don't think
Yeah.
we can still go there and talk to him, though, have a conversation, share insights and information. We're on the same team. He seemed discombobulated and surprised by the interaction he was having with the chancellor, so he might have more interesting information for us.
Okay. Yeah.
So keep in mind, Jennifer, that was two different people. The guy who was being interrogated when you guys were in the palace with the king was a
That
guy
was
named was Reldar. He was a clerk that worked for the proxy. The
I
proxy's
thought
name
it
is
was Dennis that was
Jinnis.
getting- Okay,
No, Jinnis
I-
has been imprisoned and has not been seen since he was taken by the Talons.
still could be an interesting conversation, but I thought it was Janice who was looking so confused as to what was happening.
No, that was Reldar is his name.
They're related though. I mean, they work together,
Yeah,
right?
it'd still be interesting to talk to Rel.
Reldar works for Jinnis as a
we
clerk
find
in his office. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Pretty easy.
Say that again.
We can find him pretty easy. Reldar.
Well, Reldar was taken back and so he was being so he was being questioned in front of the king. He's probably in the king's dungeons underneath the palace, especially if Glibglammer wants to bring him before the king again, then question him again. Because remember at the end she sort of like said, look, if he's enchanted, if he's charmed in some way, it's precluding. And she basically hinted at the idea that Lord Gallows' men have somehow befuddled or charmed this Reldar to keep him from telling the truth, was what she basically sort of hinted at.
Now I get it. I had missed that. I thought they were the same guy.
No, Jinnis is a different guy. He hasn't been seen. So he's the proxy, which is kind of, so the proxies are kind of a big deal. They're essentially ambassadors with all that accrues to them. And they speak with the Lord's voice. So before they could take Jinnis a prisoner, they had to declare Lord Gallo sort of persona non grata. And that's what the king did. The king has basically charged Lord Gallo with treason and arrested all of his functionaries in the city, including Jinnis, his proxy, which is like his guy on the scene in Bresk. Basically, this Jinnis represented Lord Gallo's interests in Bresk with the king when Gallo couldn't be there. Now Gallo is back at Gallowfend, but Gallowfend is a ways away. And remember, one of the things about Gallowfend is that it's hold on, let's look at the map here. Let's see. No, that's not it. I got so many maps here. All right, so Gallowfend. This is Gallowfend. So you guys are here in Bresk. Duke Gallo's thing is sort of here. The Elite Gap goes through it, and his castle is called Gallowfend, and it is very much up in the mountains. It is one of the things about Duke Gallo's territory is that it's very defendable, right? So and that's one of the things that the Sargavans may have. If the Sargavans are behind this, they may have overplayed their hand a little bit, because in forcing, if trying to force the king's hand to give them access to the Elite Gap, which goes through Gallo's territory, what they're doing is they may be putting themselves by creating such a divide between the king and Duke Gallo in order to get access to the Elite Gap. They may have overplayed their hands, because what that does is it makes Duke Gallo an enemy. They still have to physically go through the gap. Even if the king says, all right, you can go through the Elite Gap, that's great. But Duke Gallo owns that territory, and no one knows it better, and no one knows how to defend it better. And so it might not be the walk in the park that the Sargavans think it is. Now, keep in mind the 5 corps, Sargavan 5 corps is like 6,000 soldiers. So it's a big army. And Gallo can field what, maybe 500 men at arms under his livery. It's not a walk in the park, but the terrain certainly favors Lord Gallo.
Okay.
Which Balin, Balin doesn't come right out and say it, but frankly, you get the impression that Balin feels like being at Gallowfend right now would be a whole lot safer than being at Bresk, especially since the Sargavans seem to have the run of the place. And the Sargavans know of Balin. They've already made one attempt on him. We're not sure if it was an attempt on his life or an attempt to just kidnap him, maybe imprison him. But they've already made one attempt on him, and he's frankly a little nervous.
Where's this Chamberlain chick from the hand of the king? What'd you call her? A I don't know
She's the king's chamberlain, Nina Glibglammer. She's a gnome. She's not a deep gnome, so she's a surface gnome. So she must be. There are gnome tribes in the Bandu Hills, but they are uncommon. So not sure where she's from.
She's been with the king a long time. Do we know much about her by asking around, or
she predates? Yeah, so she's been the king's chamberlain for about 18 months. So relatively new. The old Chamberlain died not under any sort of suspicious circumstances. He was old and died of what would be considered natural causes. I mean, it was kind of sudden, is what Balin will tell you, but no one thought anything of it at the time. He was an older dwarf, but this woman seems to have wheedled her way into the confidences of a king, because she didn't come from within. So Balin will say, at least what he knows, which is, look, the previous chamberlain was in that office for a long time, like 20 years. But historically, chamberlains who serve the king come up through sort of the ranks of the king's administration, right? It's it's people who have worked for the king for many years. They've been in proximity to him. They have earned his trust. The king personally selects the chamberlain, but is basically the highest administrative office in the kingdom.
Is that what happened here? Did this girl come through the ranks?
No, she wasn't a part of the administration. She sort of comes up on the scene about 24 months ago, and is at first basically like engaged in a fair amount of commerce. She came with the recommendation of Lord Magadon. So she comes from him. She and Lady Naaman are considered to be decent friends, although distant, and basically she served as an administrative functionary in a variety of roles, but not directly for the king. It was people commented on it when she was named chamberlain, because she sort of superseded a lot of other, frankly, more capable, well, not necessarily more capable. She certainly has proved to be a very capable administrator, but she sort of cut in front of people who have been in the king's administration for a long time and sort of expected that, to be candidates for that job. So she sort of comes from outside.
She seems like the fox in the hen house to me. I mean, this could be the major problem here.
One of many, probably.
It's possible. I mean, like I said, it raised a few eyebrows when she arrived, and became the Lord Chamberlain, because it happened very quickly. She only arrived in Bresk maybe 24 to 30 months ago, 2.5 years maybe, and then has been inside. In just a little over a year, she went from newcomer to Bresk to the King's Chamberlain. Now, everybody comments that she's very capable, and in many ways has proven to be an exemplary Lord Chamberlain.
That's the way to put a spy in place. Put them in way in advance of the action, make sure they're good at what they're supposed to do, gain trust.
Yeah. Yeah, she's obvious with those spells. She's not trustworthy.
Could she be charming our king too?
I wouldn't put it past her.
Be a spellcaster of some sort?
It's possible. Balon's like, I don't know if she has a proper D&D class. Well, she probably does as far as your DM is concerned. But I mean, she has not. What he can't tell you is that she has not overtly engaged in the use of magic, other than the occasional magic item.
Although didn't you say it looked like she did something whenever he was trying to answer and then wouldn't answer?
Well, what happened was there was he was trying to answer, couldn't answer, or was like bobbling up his words. She looked very curiously at him, but that's when sort of like the discussion sort of erupted in various places in the audience that said he looks charmed, he looks enchanted. You guys came to the same conclusion. He looks enchanted. And that's when she sort of swiveled on a dime and said, this guy looks enchanted. We should probably postpone this until we can figure out a way to figure out if he is indeed enchanted, and if and basically she twisted it as like, if he is indeed enchanted, and what sort of enchantments Lord Gallows' men have put on him to keep him from telling the truth in this court of law, that kind of thing. But it was definitely the way she spun it was, he looks enchanted, he might be enchanted, and it's probably so he won't tell us the truth about Lord Gallo.
Does Balon have any ideas of any enemies this woman has? Is there anybody in this political environment that does not like this woman?
He goes, I don't. He go,
or is at least suspicious of her?
Well, certainly she's. I mean, when you climb the ladder that fast, you step on a few hands, and certainly those hands are out there. He goes, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't point to somebody specifically and say these people hate her, these people are nervous about her, that kind of stuff. She has a lot of allies. He goes, I know that, but he goes, as far as people who, it's not always a prudent move to stand up and say, I hate the king's Lord Chamberlain and think she's a traitor. That's not always a popular position to take.
I do that every Tuesday, so
I do that. I've done it a couple of times at work, but my boss always gets mad about it, and that kind of thing.
Bastard.
No, I was talking more about subversive groups that are very anti.
Balon's like, look, I haven't been, this is the first time I've been in Bresk in a couple of years. He goes, a lot of this, he goes, I stay clued in on the news, but, my direct contacts and stuff like that, thing. I can, we could go see the proxies and see what they have to say.
If I had any stealth, I would follow her around for a night and see who she talks to, what she does. But 3 days, it might not be enough time to bust her doing something asinine. Something we could use to talk to the king.
True.
But it might be.
If they said 3 days, we need to get out of here before that.
yeah.
So Balon's like, well, it's been a busy morning. How about some lunch on me downstairs in the common room? What do you say?
All right.
He sort of goes to before that he goes to the window, opens up the window, sticks a finger out. He goes, yes, it does indeed. Sun says it's lunchtime, and the wind is just right for drinking. What do you say we go downstairs and have a bottle or two or three of wine and maybe talk about things other than this morning's presentation to the king. What do you say? All right, if everybody's willing to do that, he leads you guys downstairs. You were brought to a table in the Griffin, and people begin swarming and coming over and bringing over food and wine and all that kind of stuff. As you guys are about midway through lunch, the first set of plates are being cleared away. The second bottles of wine are being brought. When you see at the door. And it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon at this point. You see at the door, Sergeant Hrelk has come in, and he kind of looks around, and he looks over, and he comes piling over to your table. He sits down. He's like, "If you don't mind, I wouldn't say no if you offered me a glass of that wine."
We'll give him the whole bottle.
Yeah. Hand him a bottle.
There you go.
A glass materializing. A waitress kind of walks by and pops a glass in front of him, and then keeps walking. He fills it with wine, takes a slug, and you can see he kind of rubs his eyes. He's like, "Oh, it's been a long morning." He goes, "I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know that you had. I heard the news that you guys had a less than splendid time in front of the king this morning. There's a fair amount of talk about it at Talon headquarters, about Sequin and the perfidious influence of them. It's not my opinion. It's what's just what's being said.
Right.
I do want to let you know about a couple of things that have transpired since this morning when I took that erstwhile Pixis off your hands. So the young woman's name was Pixis, by the way. I don't know if you ever beat that out, extracted that from her.
We didn't resort to that. We actually were good this time. We gave her to you before we did any of that.
Before you did any physical damage. When I arrived, she was naked in a tub, so I can only assume that you were bathing her.
Clothes on. It just wasn't any armor or anything.
She still had a kidney.
She still had a kidney, which means Titus didn't get a hold of her. Oh wait, different campaign.
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I turned her over to the Talon interrogators, and within the hour, she was released."
Released?
Released. I asked, under what grounds was she released? And I got a earful of taking advice and assuming the veracity of tales told by people who have been now named persona non grata in the city in 3 days, referring to you guys. Basically said, since you guys captured.
Wait, there's really someone named Persona non grata?
No, it's a Latin term. It's an Elvish term.
It's a boy band.
Oh, got it.
Please
Okay.
bring to the welcome
Like
to the
Sha-na-na.
stage, persona non grata. No, basically his higher ups at the Talons basically said, "Look, you brought this woman in on the say-so of some people who have been are in the process of being bounced out of the city for being, well, maybe not traitors per se, but certainly adjacent to traitors. And the king is not very happy with him. Look, we had no indication that she had committed any crimes. Hello."
Other than a bunch of witnesses.
Other than a bunch of witnesses who, which Harok says, which, by the way, a bunch of witnesses who are not considered to be all that trustworthy right now in this city. Word's out that basically you guys have been slow booted out of town.
So the plane tickets to Absalom are sounding better and better, right?
He's like, "I don't know." He goes, I haven't heard anything more than that, but they did release her after about 90 minutes. I don't know where she's gone. I had tried to have one of my guys put a tail on her. He lost her in the city. So I don't know where she is right now. But they let her go.
Okay, if they're letting her go, that means someone
What I was told is that there was no evidence that a crime was committed, and because of that, they had no authority to detain her. And the reason that they consider it to be no evidence is because the entirety of the case of the accusations against her come from you guys, and you guys are not friends of the king anymore.
So this is the same organization that murders people just because someone thought it was a good idea and they might be involved. So that happens, but several people come to you with physical evidence that someone was assaulted, all with the same story. and she gets let go. So that means she's got friends higher up that are already in the Talon organization or higher.
Alls I know is I had my lieutenant take me to task on this when I brought about the circumstances under which I brought her in for interrogation. And frankly, I told you yesterday that I've been making some discreet inquiries about the bodies we found on the way here, and everybody says that that's a non-occurrence, that this simply did not happen. And they've made it pretty clear that I'm on something akin to probation at this point.
Yeah, you need to like back off because it's.
I'm going to start keeping my trap shut. He goes, look, I know what we found out there is real. I know what we found. I mean, I saw Balin and I saw this woman, so I know the veracity of this. I tried to make that case as best I could, and I was shut down, and I was told to mind my own fucking business and not listen to you guys anymore.
So here's the deal. We're going to be leaving soon, maybe even sooner now. Yeah, it's best if you keep your trap shut, because if we find out anything or need someone in town that we can trust, we'd rather have you here alive and in good standing than stand up for us and, in some prison or dead somewhere.
I got no interest in putting my head under the axe. I'll tell you that right now. But he goes, all of this sits poorly with me. He goes, look, we've talked about, and he looks at you, Mike. He looks at Arendar and you guys and says, look, we've talked about this. He goes, all of this does not sit well with me. I'm a good cop. I've been a cop for a long time in this city, and I do my job seriously, and I take justice seriously. And there's a lot of hinky shit going on that is starting to make me think that I'm part of an organization that maybe doesn't hold the same ideals.
Well, maybe it's not your organization. Maybe it's just with the Sargavans and whatever pieces are in place right now. I'd like to give your king the benefit of the doubt that he's a good person and that there's some subterfuge or some spells or something going on that's making this like this.
I can't. He sort of thinks for a moment and he says, "Look, I can't seriously believe that the king is behind this. I've known him and worked for him for 20 years." He goes, "Never have I known the king or his edicts to be anything else but fair and just."
So this gives us more evidence that with all this janky stuff going on, someone's pulled the wool over his eyes, or someone's hiding it from him, or someone's manipulating him as well.
I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think anymore.
Anyway.
But he goes, "I have to be honest. I've got 2 strikes against me now. I've talked to the wrong people about a couple of the wrong things." He says, "Look, if I was you guys, I don't know. I don't know that I would." He goes, "Wraith might be right here. I don't know that I would wait 3 days." And
No.
he goes, and he's like, "Look, and I don't want to know where you're going either."
No. What's the best way for us to get a hold of you after this, if we need to get a hold of you?
That's a good question. Sending messages to Talon headquarters is not going to work anymore.
No. Does he have an address or a?
He's like, "Tell you what," he goes, it might take me time to pick up messages, but there's a place down in the south end of the city called the Silver Saddle. It's by my house. He goes, "I'm not going to give you my home address, but I
already have that.
But he's like, they know me there and they trust me there. I've worked with them before. Leave a message at the Silver Saddle, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can."
Okay. So, all right. Well, I appreciate the heads up. Sorry you're involved in all this, and yeah.
No, don't apologize. This is not your fault. We came across some things, and frankly, it's this is not your doing. But honestly, I should be thanking you, because you've brought to light some ugly elements that I seem to have historically been that I seem to have been ignorant of, but it's best that I know them now.
We might reach out to you if we need more information what's going on here. But that's why I wanted to know how to get a hold of you, but appreciate the heads up. And
Yeah, talk to Pelk at the Saddle. Pelk is the main bartender. He's not the proprietor, but he basically does everything but. He'll know how to get a hold of me, or he'll be able to get me a message.
so Pelk. Pelk got the Silver Saddle, is that what you said?
The Silver Saddle, yeah. It's a place down in the south end of the city.
All right, listen, what's this guy's name again?
Hrelk. A lot of elk names.
Yeah. What's this? Can you spell that?
Hrelk. I'm sorry, ALK.
Right.
Sounds like what happens after a good party in your 20s.
Oh, exactly.
Rock.
So he finishes his wine, bids you good luck, says all things go well. Perhaps we will meet again. Toasts you both, all of you, and takes off.
Real quick before you leave.
Aye.
Looking for your discretion here. If one
Yes.
wanted to get into the prisons without, being incarcerated,
Okay.
what would be the best way to do that on the down low? I'm asking for a friend.
It would depend on the prison and depend on the prisoner. I mean, but you want to talk to somebody that is currently incarcerated? Is that the idea? Don't
That and
tell me
maybe,
any names.
yeah.
Realistically, the through normal channels, what you would do is you would petition the captain of prisons. You would submit to him in writing a petition to see a certain prisoner. That request would be gauged and either approved or disapproved. By and large, it's 50-50.
So for us,
Whether those things. Yeah, so it would be generally that's the thing. In other, I mean, he goes, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't get many. I don't get many people asking me how to break into a prison.
I've got a scholarly friend who was curious and that kind of thing.
Okay. So this friend, would he be?
Do we know what prison? Did we know what prison that the whatchamacallit guy's in?
Yeah, you have a good idea.
Okay.
It's one where political prisoners are typically held.
Yeah, I'll say it's that one.
Okay. Well, political prisoners are a different story. He goes, and frankly, there's a lot of overflow. But and he sits back down and he takes the bottle and refills his glass. He says,
It's like, son of a, why are you talking to me about this?
he's like, if one wanted to see a very specific prisoner, the reality is there's a specific prison in which certain high value recent prisoners who have committed high crimes against the state or being accused of that are being kept. That prison is not overly populated and it's not overly guarded either. So the potential to walk in and disarm the locals is viable.
Okay. Okay. And is there some kind of like secret handshake or back door or something that?
There's nothing like that. They don't usually have back doors. But he gets a look in his eyes. He says, however, wait a second. He goes, if it's the person, if we're still speaking in hypotheticals. The place that we are hypothetically talking about hypothetically is rumored to be connected to a cave system that exists underneath the mountain.
Now we're talking.
Now there are a lot of there are a lot of caves under this mountain, and I cannot confirm that for you because I have no personal knowledge of it.
Gondrum loves a good cave. He starts rubbing his hands together.
But I can put you in I can put you in touch with somebody I know who's a the Spelunk master.
That would be amazing.
So he is the Spelunk master, the master of caves. His name is Bradlix.
Bradlix.
Bradley's what?
I was gonna say. Sorry.
You said Bradlix?
Bradlix, Bradlix. Bradlix Lane, Layne. Bradlix knows every cave that exists under this mountain. He's been commissioned by the king as the cave cartographer. If the rumor is true, if the rumors are true that there is a cave system that goes into that prison, he'll know about it. He and I are decent enough friends, and he says, "Tell you what." He yells out to the waitress, like, "Bring me some parchment and a quill." And she's like, "Right away, sir." And she brings over this stuff, and he writes a note. And basically the note says, Bradlix, these men and women, no, all men, these men have an interest in the case. Please give them every courtesy, and drinks are on me next time we get together. And it's signed Hrelk. He says, show this to him, and hopefully he'll give you all the information you need. His offices are actually not very far from the Griffin. It's about maybe a quarter of a mile deeper into the city.
This is awesome. Appreciate it so much, man.
The name on the building is Julian Cartographers. Julyen Cartographers. They're map makers. But Bradlix has been the chief cartographer of the caves underneath the mountain for many years, several years.
Okay.
Matt.
Been a huge help. I wish you the best, and
you as well. Hopefully things will improve.
yes, that's the goal, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Good luck to you. And he stands up, nods again, toasts in your direction, finishes the wine, and heads out.
Okay.
All right.
If we get in this way, we're gonna send, like, what's an average drink? Probably less than a silver piece, right?
Oh yeah, I would say half a silver probably, depending on what you're drinking.
So before we leave town, if this gets us in, we're gonna put a 50 gold piece tab at this silver.
At the
whatever.
Silver Saddle? Yeah, I imagine it's silver.
Okay.
You haven't been there, but I imagine it's a lot cheaper than the Griffin.
So we're gonna put a 50 gold piece tab. Say, here, cover all of his drinks for the next 50 gold pieces.
It'll be a year.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of drinks, I'm going to reload mine, and I'll be right back.
So we're buying the guy we know, cirrhosis of the liver?
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be a fun trip getting there.
So I missed part of that. Are we going to try to break somebody out of prison?
Bellin said it might be a good idea to bring. So we're gonna go see, what's his name, the guy that is still loyal to see.
Yeah.
The original guy we were gonna go see.
Right.
But his basically person that represent him here has been in prison for a while. So Bellin said
Yeah.
it might not be a bad idea to grab that guy and bring him with. Which if
So
we're trying
we're
to show
gonna
that
try,
we're useful to this guy, it'd be a
we're
good,
gonna try to do that.
yeah. And if these cave systems work to get us in a back way and it's not super guarded, then maybe we can get in, get our guy, get out, and they don't know it's us. Because I'd rather not we're kind of outlaws already, but I'd rather not stoke the fire until I'm ready to. And then we're gonna stoke like mad.
Okay.
Balin gonna, do you want to go with Balin to meet the other diplomats, or you want to just, I mean, I assume we're gonna go back with him, right? We're leaving with him. But he's not gonna want to try to break
Well,
somebody out of prison.
Alan's there at the table with us, so when Left leaves, tell Balin, instead of seeing your diplomats and taking a couple days, you might want to do everything you're gonna do today and then we're out of here. And we may or may not try and grab someone else to bring with us. We're gonna see if we can do it easily. But if that's the case, we'll be ready to leave by tonight or tomorrow.
Well, Balin
Yeah.
says he's pretty intrigued by the possibility of you know, putting the grab on. He'd like, look, he's like, I know. He goes, I'm friends with Lord Gallo. I know Ginnis. Ginnis, and neither Gallo or Ginnis are traitors. And this is a miscarriage of justice. He goes, I'm mightily intrigued by this Spelunker King, or whatever the hell is his Spelunker master. This guy, this Bradlix. If he can get us in and out of there,
Yeah, and we'll be ready to go after that. So we're not sticking around for the full 3 days.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna go talk to people, do it quickly. Because
Do you want to come with me? If that's the case, he goes, I should probably talk with the proxies now. I can report back to you later on. We'll meet back here. It's about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He goes, if we meet back here for 7 for dinner, we can plan our next move.
does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
while he's doing that, we can go meet the cartographer and get our map, or at least find out if there's a way we can get in. And if he gives us away, then as soon as he gets back and we meet for dinner, then we kind of pack up and
El Disapiro.
yeah.
It's not a bad idea. All right. So do you guys leave straight from the Griffin to go see this guy, or what do you do? Or you go back upstairs, you know, after, you know, a quick nap? I don't know. It's been a long day.
I feel like we should check and make sure we're not being followed. I'm not so sure.
Oh, I'm sure we're being followed.
Yeah, well, maybe we can ditch whoever's following us. Work on concerted efforts to kind of split up, like we're all going back to sleep and distract and escape and leave and go. Meet up.
I mean, if we're trying to stealthily go see this guy, then Wraith's probably the best to send by himself to do that, or
Yeah, maybe.
I hate splitting the party. I'd rather us all.
Yeah, and I'm not all that good a diplomat. If we're gonna try to talk this guy into giving us something he doesn't want to or isn't supposed to, I'm probably not the best person to do that.
I'd be
Either is
pretty-
fine.
I'm decent at stealth. I'm not as good as Wraith, but
So I'm thinking we can try to, we got 3 days ostensibly. So we can go and, you know, act like we're going to the market, trying to see some stuff before we get kicked out. And I can do, I can do my best to see and discover who's tailing us and try to lose them with all of us together.
right. Yeah, I like the idea of us staying together. Especially since, you know, we've already been pre-branded as traitors.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's gone. So
That's why I said pre-branded.
nobody's gone that far. But I mean, from your guys' point of view, it's obvious that well, I mean, it's obvious that that King Steppengard was not sympathetic to your views. You know, and Balin, during the course of his discussion at the thing, mentioned, you know, he mentioned that, you know, that he alluded to the idea that there might be other people, other groups who are trying to manipulate the king. He didn't come right out and say the Sargavans are part of it, but you know, I mean, you wouldn't have to be Stephen Hawking to sort of puzzle that one out.
Dead.
Which would put, and everybody knows that Balin and Gallo are friends, right? And have been for a long time, which means Balin is now painted with the same brush, right? Or potentially painted with the same brush.
Yeah.
Which means you guys are now potentially painted with the same brush.
Right.
So nobody has pointed to you guys and said traitor, traitor. But
The way this king goes, it's only a matter of time. Like,
Right.
well, yeah, I mean, what
Well-
happens? What happens then? Do you guys end up? Do you guys end up in the prison alongside this guy, or what?
it's not my intention.
You would hope that Hrelk would be able to give you a heads up,
Right.
but
He's on the outs too.
Yeah.
he's on the outs too. Yeah, and he's gonna. I mean, frankly, he's got to protect his position, right? The last thing he wants to end up is in the king's dungeons.
And yeah, we don't want to do that anyway. I'd like to have a contact still here. So if we need information and someone in the constabulary who can get us privileged information, we've still got someone.
Right.
So
Then there's always Joss. I mean, you've got a location where he hangs out. And now that
Actually, if we're gonna vacate anyway, I wouldn't mind going there on the way to the.
now that Pixis has been released, now who knows what happened? She's been out of jail for several hours now.
Right.
So she's already gone back to report, hey, this is what I told them, or unless she's ashamed of what she said, but anyway, she's already gone back and said they failed. They knew they know what's going on, and so I don't know. She might be wanting to vacate since she failed. I don't know.
Well, it depends on how dangerous this Joss is. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are like, we haven't seen him. We don't know what he's about. He's, we've got secondhand. He seems to be pretty good at protecting himself, right? Everything is secondhand. Everything is hearsay. Everything is, nobody has any concrete evidence against this guy. But he does seem to be a player. He does seem to be at the center of at least a couple of things. And he does seem, frankly, if the release of Pixis is any indication, he does seem to be connected.
Mhm.
So maybe her being released wasn't necessarily in her best interest.
Right.
It's like, what do you do? I mean, how many heist shows have we seen where a guy ends up in prison and he wants to stay in prison because it's the safest place?
Right. Yeah, if they were trying to kill Balance, what's the first rule of assassination? Kill the assassin.
Yeah, no witnesses, no loose ends.
All right, but yeah, I wouldn't mind going by see him as we're on our way to the prison, because literally we're gonna go do this and then leave. And if we cause a stink at this guy's place, I'm hoping since we'd be going from there straight to the prison to grab our guy and leave, that even if they could pin it on us, they wouldn't catch up with us in time before we're out of the town, out of the city and gone.
Okay.
That's my guess, but like I said, I'm just throwing ideas out there. I feel like I've been
Well, then
talking,
we would need, we're gonna need for Ballin then, right? Because he's gonna go talk to diplomats, or are we gonna go with to do that?
Ballin's going to go talk to the diplomats. Not the Sargavan diplomats, his friend diplomats, Lady Timor's man and Dashgaban's man. They're proxies. He's going to try and get the lay of the land and see if what fallout, if anything, has occurred because of your presentation in the King's Court this morning. But so he's definitely planning to do that. If you guys, he's like, if you guys are breaking into prisons, he goes, I don't know how much help I would be.
no, but you need to be ready to leave, because literally like after we do that, we're beelining for the exit and leaving. We're not gonna stick around for a day or
Not
two.
the city. Why don't we to the city, then we, is that, this place gonna be open at 7?
I'm only hearing bits and pieces.
Yeah, he's breaking up.
He's breaking.
The store that we're going to is probably gonna be closed at 7 or 8 at night, so we need to do that in the afternoon.
Right.
So why don't we try to meet him, Ballin, outside of the city? Like do a rendezvous point. Still hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing most of what you're saying. So maybe have him go talk to his guys and then immediately go to a point outside the city, and then we're gonna do our things, and then once we're done, we're gonna meet him at that spot.
Yeah, I think if he doesn't want to be part of the prison thing, then yeah, that would make more sense than trying to go back to the hotel, catch up with him after. So if
Right,
it goes wrong, then we need to run as quick as we can.
right, that way we're not trying to carry him with us. He's already outside and at least relatively safe.
He's like, I can
So-
balance. Like, I can settle if you guys are thinking tonight. I could settle our affairs here, pay the bills, that kind of thing. Make sure that everything's on the up and up before anything bad happens, and arrange to meet you.
Tell you what, go talk to your people, then come back here. And by that time, we should be back and we'll either have plans and we'll know we're going to see Jocelyn going to prison, or we won't have them, in which case we'll need more time. And then at that stage, if we're gonna execute, then you can close down stuff, get out of town while we take care of this and then meet you out there. And then if not, obviously we'll all stay here again tonight and then do whatever plan B is the next day.
Okay.
Hmm.
That sounds like a plan. All right. He's like, that being the case, I will get to it. Good luck. And I'll see you back here in a couple of hours.
Okay. And
All right.
take, if you can, spend a few gold and just get a few people to go with you to kind of protect you. They've already made one attempt on you.
That's a good point. All right, I'll see to it.
All right.
All right, so he goes back upstairs to get his traveling gear and stuff like that, and arranges for and you see him talking to the people arranging for protection. They actually have a connection, so they bring in a couple of bodyguards. These guys look like they know what they were about. There's a couple of dudes. One is a dwarf, the other is a human, and they seem competent. So he kind of turns around after he talks to me, he looks over the guys, he looks to you guys, he's like, yeah, we're good. So he thinks he's pretty sure it's gonna be okay. So he's got that. He grabs a couple of his his writing utensils and things, diplomatic crap from upstairs, and heads out.
Okay. All right, then yeah, at this stage we need to go. I like Chuck's idea, Chuck's idea of we'll go to the shops around where the cartographers are and kind of browse around and just look like we're buying stuff, while Wraith kind of sits in the shadows and tries to see who's paying attention to us and who might be.
Okay. You're gonna try and spot a tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And heck, even at that time, since we're all going to be within a shop or two of each other, then one or two of us can actually go into the cartographers to at least have that meeting and
Okay.
hopefully get that information.
Cool. Okay. All right. All right. Before you guys get a chance to go, though, and not too many minutes after Balin gets his stuff together, a guy approaches you before you have a chance to go upstairs and get your gear. A guy approaches you and says, "Excuse me, are you are you Lord Balin's retinue? But Lord Balin from Sequin? Are you part of his retinue?" Guy looks like this. He's kind of a younger guy. He's blonde haired, blue eyed, half elvish blood. He's got a big harp or lyre sort of strapped to him. He looks a little disheveled, look like a beat up. He's like, and he seems a little freaked out. He's like, are you part of Lord Balin of Sequin, his retinue that addressed the king this morning? Are you part of that?
I'll ask him who he is.
My name's Rumbrand. You may recognize me. I was in the audience this morning in the Kings. Sometimes I play music with the band and that kind of thing. But I saw what happened. But he goes, I have to tell you, there was some things that transpired after you left, and I wanted to let you know that I bear a message from Nina Glibglammer. She's told me to tell you.
What has she told us?
Can we go up to your rooms? Did we just lose a bunch of people?
Lost Gordon and Jennifer.
Ah, okay. He's like, look, he kind of looks around. He's like, look, I don't want to, I don't want to say anything in front of a bunch of people here in the common room. How about we go up to your rooms, to your suites? I'll tell you there. But it was Chamberlain Glibglammer that asked me to talk to you.
This ought to be good.
Interesting. It can't hurt to hear him.
I agree.
So I'm gonna tell Arendar in a language nobody else understands. Have him tell us here.
But there's
I'll-
so many people around.
By saying a language that only Mike would understand, I mean this douchebag didn't hear me either.
Oh, okay.
That's what Twin speaks for. I'll say, so why don't you just lower your voice and tell us right here?
I suppose that'd be fine if you guys are okay with that. But
Lower your voice.
the Lord Chamberlain told me to be as discreet as possible, and I'm a bard and I'm not used to being discreet, so I'm not really sure what to do.
So lower your voice and crouch down and tell us what this message is.
He sort of takes a weird sort of raggedy breath,
And
and
in
he's
Twin
like,
speak,
"Oh, all right."
In Twin speak, I'm gonna go back to Wraith. Okay, look around and see if there's someone paying attention to us, or if there's someone that might be with him.
Well, there's a couple of people that are sort of looking over at you guys, but you're not sure if like they're spying on you, or if like you've had a couple of weird visitors in the common room over the past hour and a half. You get the impression that these people sort of know who you guys are, and know what's occurred today, right? So the Griffin houses people who are of relative importance, usually commercial, sometimes political. But Bresk is the biggest small town in the Bandu Hills. You know what I mean? Word gets around about stuff. But this is odd in that. Well, so a couple of things. One, this guy seems very nervous.
Yeah.
Almost inarticulately so. Second, and is Gordon and Jennifer back?
No, not yet.
All right, Titus, give me a spellcraft check.
I was gonna say, I want to have someone do a detect magic and see if he's got some kind of effect on him.
Well, I did
Right.
sense motive.
Sense motive, and you got a
Holy
natural
crap.
20. This guy, frankly, you're not. So natural 20 on the motive. So this guy is scared. That's the first emotion that you get, is motive. But you don't get the impression that he's lying, but you get the impression that he's very frightened of the idea of what his failure might indicate. Right? The idea that, he's very afraid of failure. So
Right.
he's been given some very specific instructions. And he's very nervous about what would happen if he doesn't fulfill those. Hey, Gordon, you're back.
So I rolled
Yeah,
a
sorry.
28 spellcraft.
This guy's enchanted, charm or dominate or something, but he's got a mind affecting spell working on him.
So I share that knowledge.
And frankly, it looks a little bit like the mind affecting spell that you saw on the guy earlier today in court.
Man.
You can't specifically identify the spell that this guy is suffering under, but it's reminiscent of what. Yeah, he seems discombobulated. He seems it seems like he's having a lot of trouble sort of putting his thoughts together in an articulate way. But at the same time, as Wraith would observe, he seems like he has some very specific instructions. This time he's basically said, I have come from the Lord Chamberlain. You guys need to know what happened after you left. Is basically the gist of what he's trying to say.
Okay.
So if you guys are saying, well, we insist that you talk about it here. And frankly, you can see elvish ears are starting to pop up, because this guy has not been, it was been obvious he's come through the common room.
So do we want to take this elsewhere? I'd almost rather.
He asked if you guys could go take him upstairs.
I was just going off what Wraith said, but now that, especially if someone's gonna tell me that there's lots of people perking up. I mean,
Yeah, people are, I mean,
put it this way, especially what we just found out with the sense motive and with the detect magic.
mhm.
I was not on the fence before about this little chick. Now I'm even more not on the fence about how bad she is. This just, in my opinion, this solidifies that, okay, she's a very powerful, influential, bad player. So whatever she's trying to get to us is obviously either false or manipulative or something like that. But I don't know if I want other people overhearing it.
Okay.
So in TwinSpeak, I'm going to ask Wraith. And if Wraith, does Wraith say anything about this?
Well, I would have told you this guy's terrified.
Okay. And this, the whole conversation is going back and forth the TwinSpeak, so no one knows this, but so I'm going to ask you basically what I just said. Hey, we don't trust what's your name already. I don't know if I want this information getting out. Are you okay with
Yeah.
up to our room, and then you just kind of take your time getting there and see if anyone's trying to follow us or if there's any.
Yeah. He's not being duplicitous. He's scared.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah,
I don't
he's
know.
petrified.
I don't know he's enchanted.
No.
That's something that someone else knows, but can't tell you in TwinSpeak. So
Right.
you can lead him back to the room. I'll follow behind and see if anybody's paying too much attention or interest. And
Did he ask us to go to the room specifically?
Yeah, he did it in the
Yeah.
beginning. And then Wraith was
Well,
like,
maybe-
"No, they
maybe
can tell
this-
us here." And so I was going
Maybe
with
we need,
that. But now that,
why don't we go somewhere else besides our room?
oh, okay, we can do that too.
yeah, anywhere private at this point.
I mean,
I missed who it is. Who is this guy? I'm sorry.
this
He's
guy,
some
this
Bo
person
Beavis that
says
the
it's
little
message
gnome
for
chick
us.
sent.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what he says. Says his name's Rumbrand. He's a bard. He works with some of the musicians in the King's Court. But he's like, look, the Lord Chamberlain sent me because things happened in court after you guys left that you guys that she wants to make sure you guys know about.
And the other thing is, Titus, have you discreetly shared with us what you determined
Yes.
with the magic?
Yes.
Okay, so Titus has whispered to at least a couple of us, hey, this dude's enchanted, and it looks an awful lot like the same thing that happened to the guy who was on trial this morning.
yeah. Ooh, this woman.
Yeah. So knowing that, we know whatever whatever message he's going to give is either going to be a lie or manipulative. It's not going to be anything. It's going to look like it's something trying to help us, but we know it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd rather just do this. So, Les, is there any other kind of less common area, or
Is
like
there a conference room in this hotel?
something like that we can just all kind of?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask them, there's a couple of places on the second floor, like offices and things like that that might work.
Okay, let's do that. Because yeah, I don't want to go to the room, but I definitely want a more private place.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you ask the barmaids, they're like, give us a second. We'll bring up your drinks. Do you want us to bring up your stuff?
No.
Okay. So you just want to use the room for a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So she's like, follow me, and she leads you up to the second floor. There's a little
All
conference
of us
room in there
go
with a conference
to the second
table and that kind of stuff, and the door and a locking door. So
Okay.
and only a single window. So it seems pretty secure.
And Wraith is trailing behind.
Okay, so you're staying behind the guy.
Yeah.
All right. So
No, I'm
once you get
staying behind the group because I'm going to pay attention to what everybody else is paying attention to as he's moving off. I want to see if there's anybody paying undue attention to this situation.
give me perception.
23.
23. All right. Most people are just being looky-loos, and they're like, smirking. Some of them are smirking. Some of them are like, oh, that's a hard row for those guys. Some of them are, just sort of gawking. But there's a couple of guys in the sort of back corner. They don't seem the gawking type. It's two dwarves who are sort of sitting back there, and from your eyes, they seem to be making a concerted effort to watch you without being seem like they're watching you, right? So it's very
Right.
much, it's like they're looking this way and then, kind of, they're keeping an eye on you, and it's pretty clear that they are, but they're doing and they're doing, frankly, a yeoman's job of trying to pretend like they don't give a shit.
Right.
I see.
But it's just a couple of dwarves. They otherwise seem quite nondescript.
We need to go distract the couple of guards
They're not following you.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
just
just while others slip away. I just meant while others slip away.
that. Well, probably in the future when we all go out and somebody or whomever, whatever part of us tries to make contact with the map maker, we'll probably need to keep an eye. Yeah, we'll probably need to deal with these two then. They'll probably still be there. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna try as best I can to get a good description of them so I'd recognize them if I saw them again.
Okay. Yeah, they're generally nondescript dwarves. They don't seem to have any they're not
Well,
wearing any
the large
obvious
tattoos,
symbols or any. Yeah, no,
they're spies. They don't stand out. They look like everybody else. That's how
Yeah.
they blend.
they're definitely gray men. All right, so you go upstairs. This guy seems to be getting nervous. He's like, "Look," he goes, "Look, I shouldn't even be seen with you. The Lord Chamberlain said that you guys are in danger, and I'm not supposed to spend a whole lot of time around you guys. But this. But she made sure to tell me that um." That you guys are in danger. She told me to tell you that you're in danger.
We're in danger from who?
Well, she said for me to tell you that the king he's gone insane, that the deaths of his family has sort of driven him around, and that there's paperwork in place that they're gonna swear out arrest warrants for all of you, including Balin, and they're gonna send you to Godefroy prison and with gallows men, because they think that you're here on gallows behalf. And she told me that she tried to convince the king that wasn't the case, that you were sequin men and that kind of thing, and so then somebody else, one of her advisors said that no, you guys were from Gate Pass and that kind of thing, and then the Sargovans know, and she was like, well, what do the Sargovans know? And nobody really knew, and so but the king seems he's just acting irrationally, and now nobody knows what's going to be, but he's already put in the paperwork. They're going to arrest you. You got to get out of here, and they're going to do it before the 3 days are up.
Okay.
Should we go to the caves?
Well, so this Godefroy prison is the prison
That's the one where
that's the one that Hrelk basically said, this is, if hypothetically, if you were a political prisoner and this kind of stuff, that's the prison.
okay.
And he said, "Oh, I almost forgot. She gave me this." And he reaches into his jerkin and he pulls out a small sort of silver tube, and it has a sigil on it. Does anybody speak gnome?
No.
I comprehend language.
Ooh, okay. So you're gonna use comprehend languages on this rune, these runes on the silver?
Sure, unless somebody has a better idea.
All right. So
Is
it's
gnome gnomish? What is the language of gnome? Gnomish?
gnomish, yeah.
Okay.
I'm checking.
Just
I
checking.
doubt very seriously.
I
So
don't.
Titus, if you're going to do comprehend languages, you cast that spell on yourself and you read these runes, and basically it is the runic version. It's old gnomish, and it basically is GLB GLMR, glib glamour in gnomish runes. The tube itself is small, maybe the size of a finger, capped at both ends with unscrewed caps, and it's on a little leather. It's got like a little hook on it with a leather thing. It's been hanging around his neck. He's like, she gave me this. She gave me this to give you, and said to make sure that you get it and to put it right in your hands. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting it right in your hands. And he
I'm
takes.
not
he
touching anything.
Well, he's got it in his hand, and he's like reaching around. You can see him sort of reaching for somebody's hand, and he grabs. He tries to grab. Let's do this. That's Vondram. Vondram, he tries to grab your hand. And do you let him, or?
I guess.
Okay. So he grabs your hand and so he grabs your hand with one of his hands, and his hand is very cold and clammy and kind of sweaty. And he puts the silver tube in your hand, and basically like sort of steps back. He's like, okay, I've done it. I've put it in your hand. I've put it in your hand, just like she said to do, just like she said. And I put it in Vondram's hand, and she ran off with it.
Disappeared.
I think they're having internet trouble.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So she doesn't immediately keel, or Vondram, he doesn't immediately keel over from poison. So
Yeah.
he's holding this little silver cylinder in his hand.
I just don't take it. That's a scrying point.
Oh, she's back. Hey, Jennifer.
I'm sorry. So I take it that I've been unwittingly taken possession of something that she wanted me to hold, or one of us to hold.
Well, right. Yeah. It's relatively, for its size, it's relatively heavy. But yeah, it feels like a silver tube, and it has those
I'll
runes
cast
on it that spell out her name.
Detect magic.
Okay. Detect magic. It does not radiate magic.
Okay.
I set it on the table.
Okay.
And what's inside of it?
Don't know. You haven't opened it yet. He says, I don't know. She just gave it me, and she said to put it in your hands, and not to do anything but put it in your hands.
I'd tell him to open it. And we're gonna back up.
You see him sort of reach for it, and he's like, "Ugh, mm." And his hand comes back, and he's like, open it. Okay. Okay. And he reaches for it again, and his hand gets close to it, and then he pulls back again. He's like, I don't know that I can. I don't think I can open it. It's for you. She says it's for you. I'm supposed to give it to you. I'm supposed to put it in your hands.
And we took it, and we're asking you to open it. But it's in our possession. You've done your job. Just open it for us.
So he reaches out his hand. He's like, and you can hear him. He's sort of like, he's not talking to you, but you can hear him sort of, done my job. Done my job. They told me to open it. It's okay. And he's sort of talking to himself almost. It's like a little mantra.
Like
He's got
coaching
going on.
himself.
Almost, yeah. It's sort of like he's sort of like, they told me. Okay, it's okay. And he reaches out, and very gingerly he takes up the thing. You can see his hand shaking as he picks this thing up, and his other hand is sort of like, and he takes and he spins the cap off of it and pulls it off.
I'm
And he's
back.
like, well, he pulls it off, and it opens up, and you can see that it's hollow. It's a tube, and there's something in there. It looks like a piece of paper or something like that.
Tell him to take it out.
Tick.
Take
Okay.
the paper out.
So he takes the thing, and he sort of like shakes it out onto his hand, and a little piece of paper kind of like shots out. And it's small, very curled, very tightly. The thing we're talking about is only the size of a finger. So you take the caps off it. I mean, you're talking about something that's maybe 2 or 3 inches long,
Okay.
and a ½ inch wide. So it's a piece of paper kind of like rolls out
Like I said, come
onto
back
the
in
table.
day. Pick that up and open it up and read it for us.
Read the paper for you.
Yep.
Okay. He reaches down and he grabs the paper, and he unscrolls it, and the paper is maybe 4 inches long and 2 inches wide. And it says, "You want me to read it out loud?"
Yeah.
It says, "Black obelisk is hollow. Inside are clothes and supplies. 2 miles southwest is the town of Maxon. Inn is called the Shorn Coin. They know to take care of you. Code word is Eladir must fall. Stay 1 night, then go on to Gallo. No more than that. The Talon will be on your trail, and there's naught I can do about that once the fire has been lit. You will be safe at the Fend. Do not come back to Bresk. Your lives will be forfeit here. I will do what I can here, but dare not hope for success. And when he finishes reading, he's like, oh, 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 oh. That's all it says. That's all it says. He goes, I know. I know where the Black Obelisk is. I know where it is. I know what she's talking about here. I know the Black Obelisk. It's in the cemetery. It's in the cemetery by Godefroy Prison.
Well, show us the way.
I mean, okay. I don't know that I can. I have to go back. And it's like a change comes over his face, and he's like, I have to go back. I have to go back.
Are you sure you can't stay with us for a bit?
I can't stay. I have to go back. Stammer is gone. The sweating and the weirdness is gone. He seems quite composed all of a sudden.
I'm gonna try some
have to go.
friendly diplomacy.
Go ahead. What do you say to him?
I say you've been very helpful to us, and we appreciate it. If you can guide us to this Black Obelisk, we will gladly give you cheeseburgers Tuesday.
For an obelisk visit today?
Yes.
I see. Yeah, I apologize. I cannot guide you to the obelisk. I can tell you it is by Godefroy Prison. However, I must return. I have many duties that await me back at at my employ. He goes. He kind of looks around, and there's a moment where he starts to kind of like shake a little bit. He kind of looks around the table, and he looks at the silver thing, and he's like, I apologize. I would love to help you, but at this point, I must return. And he stands up and goes, I hope that everything works out okay for you. And he turns and heads for the door and walks out.
So
Guess they got
as soon
the
as,
ambush.
soon as the door closes, gonna ask, do we want to follow him and see where he goes?
Huh.
He resisted
Feel like he was
35
charmed.
diplomacy.
What's that?
He resisted
Feel like he was
35 diplomacy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jennifer.
No,
Give me-
you're go ahead. Yours is more
give me-
pertinent.
Give me a spellcraft, Titus. Another
Yes,
one.
sir. I'm working on it. 22.
22. Your guess is that the reason he resisted a 35 diplomacy is that he wasn't in there. Either he was operating under a Geas or some sort of dominate spell.
Okay. I share the info.
You know, you know how good your diplomacy things is. You should have been able to convince him. But he was, I mean, it bounced off of him like you know, a Super Ball off of the side of a school.
I share this information as well as my intuition and thoughts with the group.
You think that maybe there was some sort of event that triggered the change in behavior, because whatever happened to him at first, he was sort of like the ragged edge, right? He was stammering, he was sweating, he was uncomfortable, and then suddenly everything changed, and suddenly he became composed, he became confident, and resisted a 35 diplomacy check without even batting an eye.
So
Here's the other fun part. So he leaves the thing on the thing. Leaves a little paper. If you guys want to look at the paper, it looks like this. It's just a little piece of paper. but he says the black obelisk is nearby to Godefroy prison. There's a cemetery near that prison. Godefroy prison is the place where supposedly Ginnis is being held, and frankly, the place that you guys are thinking about breaking into. So either somebody has been tipped off to your plans, or somebody is thinking along the same lines. This ostensibly came from Nina Glibglammer, the Lord Chamberlain. So basically, the Lord Chamberlain, who seems so unsympathetic to your plight, is now saying through proxies, look, the king is insane. He's going to commission your arrest. He's going to throw you in this prison if you don't do this. He's like, and she's like, basically said, look, I've made arrangements for you to escape the city before that happens. The black obelisk is hollow and it has clothes and supplies. One assumes like warm clothing because you guys are in the mountains, right?
Which we've already got that because we traveled to get here, so.
Right. So why
Yeah,
she's
that's
saying that she's putting supplies there is weird, but maybe she assumes that you guys may be captured first. Then she says, look, there's a town
Yeah.
southwest of the city called Maxon, with an inn. She's like, look, I've already made arrangements. Stay there and go. And she's basically, if this is from her, she's saying, go to Lord Gallo. I can't protect you here. What the king is insane.
No,
Okay, so why did she want us there?
she might have decided
And why
she
did
might,
she,
clothes and supplies
Right.
might be for the prisoner.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible because we don't. But I'm concerned now that
Maybe she's fighting this or go.
What was that?
That maybe she's fighting this.
Maybe
Gordon-
he said maybe she's fighting the Sir Goblins.
Oh, maybe. So maybe you have an unlikely ally here?
I don't buy it.
So as far as I can tell, we really shouldn't change our plan.
I just don't like the fact that it seems like she knows about our plan before we made it.
Well, we weren't going to stop at this place. We were going to try to get the prisoner and then skip straight to Lord Gallows,
Well,
which we still can do.
well, and it seems like there's several people that seems like that's a good idea. I mean, she's saying you'll be safe at Lord Gallows. The Fend is the shorthand for Gallowfend, which is
Yeah.
Lord Gallows' castle. You'll be safe there. Don't come back to Bresk. Your lives will be forfeit here. I will do what I can, but I dare not hope for success. Which means, I mean, if you take this at face value, it means that she's been lobbying on your behalf. But she also maybe understands. I mean, frankly, who better would be in a better position to understand that Lord Gallows' men have been unjustly charged, but as Lord Chamberlain, she has to, I mean, she's the, like, I think, Chuck, you said it earlier, she's the hand of the king, right?
Yeah.
So she may not feel like she's in a position to advise the king against this. If this Rumbrand guy is legit, and he's saying, look, the king has gone insane. He's about to swear out arrest warrants for all of you. But he's gone insane. Then maybe Glibglammer is doing everything that she can to try and maintain some semblance of law and order and keep the king from going off the deep end. And she may be and frankly, she's in the unique position of being able to know pretty certainly whether or not Lord Gallows' men are actually traitors, but in also the unenviable position of having to go along with whatever the king says because she's the Chamberlain.
Okay,
Right. So I'm going to try to take all of this into consideration.
Mhm.
So it's going to be sort of an odd role. I want to do sense motive,
Okay.
but not necessarily on her because she's not here.
Forensic sense motive?
Yeah, sort of.
I like it.
So one, so what I'm looking for is there a way that this is a setup? Because at this point, it seems like my brother doesn't trust this chick. He thinks she was responsible for the spell that was on the guy that was being interrogated in court,
Hmm.
which seems possible because it seemed like the same spell effect that was on this messenger that ostensibly came from her.
It's possible, yeah.
So is there any benefit to her? Is there any drawback to her? Is there any chance that this is all an elaborate scheme from someone else that made it seem like it was from her?
Okay. So
Hmm.
that's the sense motive you want to try and use to puzzle
Yeah.
that out. Okay. All right. Yeah, absolutely. 27. It absolutely could be a ploy. It could be a trap, frankly.
Mhm.
And that's the first thing that comes to your mind is that, look, they've obviously considered this and considered the idea. Obviously, I mean, it's no secret that Balin and by proxy, you guys are allies and friends of Lord Gallo, right?
Right.
It was no secret also that you guys were considering seriously going to see Lord Gallo first before coming to Bresk, and only transverse to Bresk because you felt like things had moved too quickly and Balin wanted to get here. That would have been, well, not common knowledge, but certainly more people than just you guys would have known about that, right?
Right.
Not the least of which would have been the Talon guys under Sergeant Hrelk. So it's unlikely that Hrelk would have blabbed your secrets, but there's no saying what his guys talked to you about. I mean, that kind of stuff. So it could easily be a trap. If they're dangling Jinnis in front of you and saying, look, if you guys are so if Glib Glamour is suspects that you guys are going to go after Jinnis, right? So she's here dangling, like saying, look, here's my support. The Black Obelisk has closed. Meet at this inn. They're waiting for you, but go on to Gallowfend. I can't keep you safe here. It could be a trap that says this proves that you guys are traitors. You guys were going to release the traitor Jinnis, and now it justifies your own incarceration, right? It confirms once and for all that you guys are in league with Gallo, and Gallo is indeed a traitor, and all
Yeah.
the other things, and they could pin anything on you. Yeah, it's very fraught with hazard. The other side of that coin is it's a perfectly legitimate idea that Glib Glamour is trying to protect the king and protect the people from the king at the same time, and finds herself in the unenviable position of having to walk a very narrow balance beam between an insane autocrat and the people who are either being unjustly accused, unjustly charged, potentially unjustly murdered by the Talon.
Right.
And she's walking that fine line. I mean, just because she's a parvenu doesn't necessarily mean she's evil.
But that, for what we witnessed against that guy,
Mhm.
there was no way she was trying to walk a middle line. It was quite obvious she was trying to pin this on him, and she looked frustrated or changed whenever it wasn't going her way. So this isn't someone who's trying to walk a fine line. Because walking a fine line, you could have done that without being as thoroughly going against him as she did.
True. That's a good point. On the other
He
hand,
was adamant, and
how
then
people react to I mean, it's immovable objects reacting to implacable forces, right? So you've got an autocratic king who she's the new Lord Chamberlain, right? So she's only been in this job for a year and a half.
Yeah.
She stepped in front of people to get this job, but everybody that you've talked to considers her to be pretty competent at this job, right? But she's come in and now she's here. Now she's got a king who's had 19 people in his family murdered, including all of his wife and all of his heirs, which puts him in a very precarious position from a succession standpoint, right? His oldest surviving child is 6 years old, which means he's going to have several years, well, maybe more than a decade before he can even consider taking that. And if he buys it before that, and King Steppengard is not a young dwarf, if he buys it, then Lord is it Magadon? Lord Magadon steps in, or at the very least, Lord Magadon steps in as the regent, right? Until Steppengard's oldest son attains the age of maturity, but a lot of things can happen in a decade, right? I mean, I don't think we have to look too far into English history to understand what happens to the younger sons of kings who die and are covered by regents. Younger sons tend to disappear in weird accidents.
Right.
When
So,
power is concerned.
I mean, we
The
kind
sh-
of knew all that already.
Yeah.
So we know the two possibilities. Basically, with a 27, what do I think? Which is more likely?
You think it's a trap?
Okay.
You think it's a trap?
So I would suggest that.
That was an amazing use of that skill, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah, it
you.
was pretty good.
Yeah. Now I'm going all Quincy ME on this motherfucker.
Sam, get me a CT head scan and a blood work.
Yeah.
Check the
CBC panel.
tox.
Right.
So
So
my wife and I, Marla and I have been watching. You guys surely remember the show ER, right?
Yep.
yeah.
Well, it's on Max now. It's on HBO. They've got all of it. It's like 20 seasons of it. And we've
That
been,
many?
it's an incredible amount of,
Yeah, it's been
volume.
around
5
forever.
or 6 seasons while it was good, and then kind of fell away from it.
And then it got good again.
And so we just started watching it out of the blue. Marla's like, I always loved it when it was on the thing. So I'm sorry, 15 seasons.
Still a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And they are big seasons too. I mean, some of them are like 20, all right, I'm looking at it, 22 episode. Most of them are 22 episode seasons. This is back in network TV, right? When you
Yeah.
had long seasons. So there's a shitload of these things. And we've been watching them, and they're just as cool now as when they used to be. But such a good show.
All right. So this is most likely a trap.
That's what you think, yeah. It's a
And
trap.
at this point, we have to decide if we're actually going to go after this guy in prison. Because the fact that this person put this trap out there
Means she knows we're going to do it.
means she knows it's a possibility.
She suspects, yeah.
She suspects it's a possibility. And if we are not successful, get caught, get seen, whatever, they're going to use that like she did in the courtroom with her. Oh, he could be charmed by Galfoy's man or whoever it is, whatever his name is. Gallo. She's going to immediately roll it into, yeah, he might be charmed, but that would have been by Gallo's man. So if we try to get this guy, if we're seen, it's going to be, oh, look, they're traitors breaking this guy to prison. So Gallo's a traitor because they're breaking his guy to prison. My honest opinion at this point, and I know what the diplomat said, but he also rolled a 4.
11. He rolled an 11.
I think we should just bail and go to Gallofen without trying to break anybody out of prison, without doing anything illegal. Just get the hell out of Dodge. And I'm sorry for that guy. I mean, he needs help, obviously, but I don't think we can help him right now without potentially implicating ourselves, obviously, and Lord Gallo, even worse than he's being implicated by nonsense.
I hate to
Well,
do
we
that.
don't know about
but
Brock either.
I agree with your thought process.
What's that, Gordon?
Said at this point, we don't even really know about Hrolk either. If this is all a plot to get us caught, I mean, he could very well be
Yeah.
playing sides to get us caught.
Or even if he was honest to begin with, because I think we did some sense motives on him that seemed pretty promising.
He
If
is
he
power.
goes, if he goes back and he's already apparently, from if you believe what he says, been taken to task over his belief in us, even in stuff that he saw too. Here's a guy with his face busted in. This is what happened. Now that we're just automatically marked as bad and criminals and liars, who's to say he doesn't go back and they say, yo, we'll give you a raise and we'll make sure things go good for you if you turn on these people. So
Talking about Relk?
I don't
Yeah.
think if we're discussing this openly, Arendar would come to his defense and say, look, I'd like to think I'm a decent judge of character. And just in my interactions with him, he doesn't have the same duplicity as all these other people that are suspect or that we've been dealing with.
And what's your sense motive?
Arendar's a sense motive. He's always right.
You have a 6?
He's always right.
Yeah, you have a decent judge. You're a decent judge of character now. Shut up.
Jesus.
But Erendar say I'm wrong.
And like I said, maybe he's a good guy now, but it's possible that they can apply enough pressure to him that he sort of changes how he behaves for self-preservation. You can't fault him for that. He doesn't want his family getting involved in this nonsense or, his career. So I get it. I think he's a good, law person too.
Mhm.
But it's obvious that the Talons as a whole are not.
But they didn't used to be this way.
Right. They
This is a
didn't.
This is a recent development.
The
Yeah,
Talons are a recent organization. So Hrelk has been a Bresk City constable for 20 years. Once the king's family was poisoned,
Yeah.
that's after that was the formation of the Talons.
Right.
And those Talons were specifically formulated to defend the king, investigate against enemies of the king, and generally forestall treason kind of thing.
Yeah.
They were given a great amount of power to do that.
At this point, the king is paranoid and probably insane with grief. So everybody is an enemy of the king.
Right.
So we need to get the hell out of Dodge and get to Gallowfen, bypass this obelisk and this inn, because that's a trap. In my opinion,
The Velvet Rose?
It's most likely a trap.
Oh yeah, I don't want to go anywhere where they say. And
Yeah, right. And I'm sorry. I think we need to leave this.
They're wrong, but the more I think about it, the more I think Wraith or Chuck is right. That this with
I mean,
this we're being played, and I think this does make not only us look worse by breaking them out, but it makes Gallo look even worse. And so
yeah,
I
we're
think-
doing them their spin factory a favor.
right. I think right now the reasonable people are still probably think Gallo, who've known him forever, he's not a traitor. This is just the king doing this. But
Yeah.
break this guy out and go there, that's all the evidence that they need to take it from rumor and suspicion to no, he's definitely against the king. And
To
I'm convinced.
condemn Gallo. So let's
That's a
just
good
go.
point. I'm on board.
So do you guys want to follow Rumbrand as he goes out? See where he goes? Do you want to follow him?
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I can do that to see if he goes back to where the Chamberlain woman is,
That's a good point.
or if he goes back to where the Sargovans are. It's still a trap either way, in my opinion, but at least we'll know if that's important. Otherwise, I think we need to pack up and get out.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it'd be nice to know where he went, but I can't imagine us finding out something by that would benefit us.
Okay. Do you so does that mean you don't want to follow him?
Like I said, it'd be nice, but I just don't know what we get out of it.
Okay.
Either it goes back to Umbridge, which we suspected that anyway.
Bridge.
I take umbrage with that.
So that's what's that? Yeah, that's one. Or yeah, he goes to Sargovin, which okay, we didn't know that.
Yeah,
You know what? We know they're trying any sneaky way to win this
Right.
anyway, so that's just another.
I have invisibility and fly, if that helps.
Do you want to follow him? You want to Titus? You want to just go on walkabout and follow this
If
guy and see what
everyone
happens
thinks
to him?
it's worth time, I'm kind of the mind that it doesn't if we know it's a trap. And
yeah,
we
I
are
don't
in the
think it's
middle of it.
worth. I don't think it's worth it.
But I would,
What's
yeah,
that?
I don't
Where
either,
did
but
you,
I'd be willing.
He
How
was-
long is Balin gonna be gone?
Couple hours, he said. Be back by dinner.
Maybe we need to try to find him and rather than wait, because he's probably not coming back if this is really a setup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We said he was going to see those two proxies, which I mean
Do we know where they are?
well, yeah, they have offices on the near the palace, frankly.
So why don't we grab our stuff so we're ready to go?
Okay.
I have all my stuff.
And then let's go find him.
Just clear out of the room and go find
Yeah.
the
But I still think when we leave here,
diplomat.
you need to not be present so you can, if those two dwarfs are the two that are following us, you can see that.
Yeah, I'll lag behind, but
Um,
stick to the
I'm still
shadows.
even leery about going back to our room too. Maybe Wraith can check that out first before we go up there, because I mean he tried to get us up into our room. They could be waiting for us there too, possibly.
no, I really think based on what we've come up with, it makes total sense that this message was from her and it really was a setup. So I don't think there's any subterfuge to get us this message. And I think really she wants us to have this message. She wants us to trust her and take the bait to get us all caught. So she wouldn't be trying to kill us here. This is all right. We're much more useful framing Gallo and ourselves as traitors than we are just getting killed, because of a delivery of a message.
They're good. They're strong arguments.
Hmm.
On the other hand, it might be nice to know who's pulling the strings.
Right.
Well, ultimately, the Sargavans are pulling the strings.
Right. We
If
just,
the newly implemented Chamberlain is helping, then she's just on their side.
right.
Whether
Well,
for
the
money,
Sargavan War hasn't only been going on for what about 6 months now. She
yes, but
was
we've seen how they operate with
Oh yeah, they get people in
Hydromancer.
Yeah.
They're really good at playing the long game.
He was previously offered a ton of money and all that other stuff to
Mhm.
go hide out in some ruins and flood Sequin with storms.
Yeah.
And
They
they
put
started
Glimmer
that.
Glam in 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they started that long before it actually happened. So this is the same pattern.
Yeah, they're really good at
Yeah,
playing.
they did the same thing. They did the same thing to Gate Pass. They infiltrated the council. They infiltrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they threw people in months or years in advance, and then when they were ready to attack, we pretty much opened the doors for them because we had enough people.
This is their MO.
So yeah, this is how they work, and they're very good at it, unfortunately.
They've had a fair amount of success so far.
Yeah. So we just need to get to Gallo and see if it's possible, if he's on our side, to
Well,
convince him to protect the pass with our help or without, whichever, to try to keep this fifth legion. What do they call themselves?
Yeah, the Sargavan Fifth Corps.
The Fifth Corps out of Sequin.
Well, it's not only out of Sequin. We get the elves help on this too because
Well,
the
yeah,
elves didn't know that we told them. It's like they're going to bring him in behind you. You're going to be in a pincher move. You're gone first.
Yeah, I mean, it's militarily, it's not subtle. It's not,
Yeah.
this isn't a sneak attack. They're bringing 6,000 troops through what they want to do is bring 6,000 seasoned troops through the Elite Gap, and pincher movement. These guys with 3 corps, because Shaladel and all the elves are fighting in this river system to keep the Sargavans at bay from using the river system to go all over the place, right? So if these guys come behind them, they get access to the river, they get access to everything. Then you've got Lord Shaladel and all of his elves
Yeah.
and all their allies are caught between two major armies.
They'll fall, and then it's just they can steamroll continues right on through Sequin.
Sequin's a mop up. Sequin can field what? Even on Vorpert's best day, Sequin's putting what? 1,000 troops in the field, maybe, and 3/4 of those are going to be partially armored, partially weaponed refugees without training, without things. So you're talking about maybe 300 troops that can fight. That's part of why Vorpert approached you when you guys were still in Sequin and said, train my guys. Because we don't have trainers. We don't have capable. We don't have capable commanders. We don't have capable people who. And then when you guys were like unwilling to do that, he was like, "All right, well, work with me and operate as a guerrilla unit behind enemy lines." He doesn't have. I mean, from Vorpert's point of view, he talks a good game, but the reality is he doesn't have the guys and the training to pull this off. I mean, he's got the attitude. Everybody wants to fight, but I mean, it's like the Children's Crusade, right? They threw a bunch of people, a bunch of monks and adolescents and farmers against trained knights, and I don't have to tell you what happened to those people.
Right. So yeah, I think unfortunately, do we want to shake down Joss on the way out, or is that kind of a lost cause, do we think?
I don't know. He holds court at a place called the Velvet Rose. That place is a bit of a dubious thing. It's a sort of private, semi-private club for organized crime, petty criminals, mafia, that kind of thing. So he's in with those guys, which means walking in there may be an issue. But if you do a full court press, it's possible you can get close to him. But I mean, you haven't even checked the place out.
They'd expect that. I think if there's enough reputation that this is where bad things happen and this is the people who control those bad people, I would think there's a little element of protection just in the reputation.
Yep.
We wouldn't expect someone to be stupid enough to do a full frontal assault.
No, they wouldn't suspect anybody to be that stupid.
Right.
What's the phrase? This calls for a pointless and stupid act on somebody's part, and we're just the guys to do it.
We've been loving it.
I haven't watched Animal House in a long time. I gotta dig that out.
Like I said, this is the last chance we're going to have to openly walk in this town, either ever or for a long, long time. So do we want to at least try and find information from Joss before we leave, or do we want to cut our losses since this is looking more and more dangerous for us and just get out now? Chuck, I just asked, you just missed it.
What?
We want to try and we will not be coming back here anytime soon.
Yeah.
At least not to be able to walk freely in the streets.
Yeah.
Since this is our last chance here, do we want to stop by Joss's place and see if we can find out anything there?
What's the benefit? What's the possible benefit of that?
Well, if we can uncover something that proves that he was at least involved with the murder.
Yeah, but look,
suspect coming from us, but we can get it to someone else who can present it.
The board is tilted. Nothing we find is going to be useful. We could find the exact person with the poison in their possession that killed all his family members, and coming from us, they're going to dismiss it.
Oh, no, coming from us, it would. So we'd get it to someone else.
Who?
We'll find someone.
Brelk, maybe?
Yeah.
Vrelk asked 2 questions that got smacked down.
But if we can get this pub up enough, they can't hide this.
But if he's got proof, that's a different story.
Proof, and he's got other witnesses. They can't hush this, and it's not us. So I'm saying if we don't figure this out now, we know we're going to be traitors here in a day or two.
Right.
Never allowed back here. The only option is to bring armies against the king, and we don't have armies to do that.
Well, nor does Gallo. Like I mentioned before, Gallo has maybe 500 men at arms.
A very, very, very defensible position.
And from what you understand about Gallo, I mean, you've never met the man, but you've talked to Balin extensively about the guy. And basically, Gallo has always been very loyal to the king.
Yeah.
Even though the king has declared him traitor, the likelihood of Lord Gallo bringing his 500 men at arms against the king's armies at Bresk, and we're talking about Lord Iz's armies, really, is what we're talking about. And he's got a couple of thousand screaming dwarves out of the hardest territory in the Bandu Hills coming. thing. I mean, Gallo's strength is terrain, not numbers.
Nah.
Very defensible position.
Yep.
But at this point, none of that. I don't see where we get any benefit from fucking with these people anymore. Let their crazy ass king turn on himself and kill all of his loyal people or whatever, imprison all of his loyal people because he's aggrieved that his family was murdered. The Sargavans are behind it all, and there's nothing that we're going to be able to show him that's going to make him believe that. Especially because apparently some of the people close to him are casting high level spells like geese. So, I mean, it's a fool's errand. We get out and live to fight another day.
Right, but I'm just saying, if we give up on that, then the campaign's over. Then my joke earlier about let's get some plane tickets to Absalom really become.
Well, no, that just means that the 5 Corps is going to try to come
He's
through
gonna
the
come
pass.
through.
We have the elves as allies, ostensibly.
Not really. We're trying, and
Well, we sent that
Well,
message back, so
they don't hate us as much as they used to.
Well, no,
right.
I think you were pretty successful in convincing Princess Shalosha that
Right.
you guys, it wasn't Sequin that it was fault, that this was a Vortbert operation on both accounts. He killed Laura Beck, he attacked the elves, and and she actually said, if I recall correctly, she said she was going to bring this to Lord Shaladel and
Right.
basically say, look, this may have been a bad actor rather than a bad town. And so, she was going to try to do that, but she, the same question is, she's also got other fish to fry, right? She's fighting, her guys are fighting 3 Corps on the southern end of the river system, trying to keep those guys from entering past Gate Pass. So they've been fortunate in that the Bandu Mountains are their protective flank. And if that gets invalidated, then they've been flanked essentially from a military standpoint.
Right.
But they don't even, frankly, they're not even, I mean, well, I guess they're aware that this is a possibility and that you guys in Balin were going there to sort of forestall this possibility, but it's doubtful that Shalosha has details. I mean, she's certainly aware of the presence of the Elite Gap and the strategic elements that accrue to it. But from her point of view right now, she assumes that you guys are going to Bresk and are going to convince the king not to let the Sargavans through. So she's got to operate under those circumstances, right? Which means she's out there doing her job.
Right.
Not out there watching to see if the Sargavans suddenly show up 6,000 strong on her ass.
Right.
Which we failed that as of right now.
Well,
She doesn't know that.
and
No, she doesn't.
the diplomacy attempt with the king was failed before we even got here.
Yeah, that was failed before we got there. But we didn't know that. But that's what I'm saying, back to the Jahaz thing. It's this isn't a slam dunk. But we're not going to have this is the best opportunity we have to be in town and try and gather up any more information or evidence. It's going to be much harder if we have to do it later, because we're already right now, we don't have arrest warrants yet out for us, but it's going to be really soon. And so if we want to do anything, now is the time to do it, when we're on our way out of town, because I don't think we're going to have this opportunity later.
That makes sense.
Okay.
No, if anything that Glib Glamour says is correct, I mean, she's like, you guys are going to be persona non grata here. I mean, you guys are, at the best case scenario is that the king has basically said you're kicked out of my city in 3 days. The worst case scenario is what seems to be hinting at is the idea you guys are going to be arrested. You're guys going to be charged with treason. And this kind of chase, it's not so much. It's not so much your connections with Lord Gallo, bad as they are, but those come through Balin. This case is going to be you guys representing Sequin. And now suddenly there are 2 towns, Gallofend and Sequin, who are now sort of on the treason list, which just plays into Sargavan's hands. There's like everybody to the north and to the west of Bresk, King Steppengard, is against you. They all want to fight us. We don't want a war with you. And then you got to figure that's what they're saying. We don't want to fight with you. We want to be allies with you. But these people keep attacking us. And what are we going to do?
Mhm.
You know, stop hitting yourself. You know, that kind of thing. For those of us who have older brothers, understand that completely. So yeah, I mean, Sargava's playing a strong political game here, and they are, you know, from a chess match, they've got you down to two knights and a bishop and a couple of pawns, and that isn't great.
Like I said, it's just down to, do we add the Joss variable to this in hopes that it gives us a little bit more? Or is the threat too much since we need to leave town that we just need to cut losses and go? But like I said, if that happens, any diplomatic victory, I think, is done because we lost the diplomatic side. We didn't get any kind of evidence. And
So
we're already hanging out with traitors.
So there's a continuum here, right? So if you guys, Jaas does not have any political, what's the word I'm looking for? Political armor, right? So some characters have political armor, right? So if you guys were to go after Nina Glibglammer, you're going after the Lord Chamberlain. That she's got political armor that's going to cause problems for you if you kill her, right? So if you but if you Jaas doesn't have that, as far as you guys can tell, and all the evidence that you gathered seems to be that Jaas is sort of like this independent Sargavan operator of the kind that you've seen before, right? You've seen this in Gate Pass. You've seen this in Sequin, where they bring in these sort of like unaligned guys who are not Sargavans, but they're sort of like suddenly they cause a bunch of problems. And this seems to be the same kind of thing. Gordon, you want to say something? Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were saying something.
No, I was saying he's the fixer. He gets stuff done that people can't do officially.
Yeah, he's the plausible deniability guy, right? He can act with impunity because he, for all intents and purposes, has no connection to the Sargavans. So he can do all kinds of stuff on his own. And it never, and the Sargavans are saying, well, we don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
You know, he's just some local psycho. What do we know? You know, that happened in Gate Pass. That happened in Sequin. You know, now it's happening here in Bresk. So this is, I mean, to Chuck's point, this is definitely this is their MO, right? The Sargavans put people in place a year, sometimes more ahead of time. They get them into positions of power, and when they finally show up on your doorstep, the door suddenly is magically unlocked, right? Because the people in positions of power have unlocked it. It's a walk in the park. So in this case, if you guys go after Jaas, he's not theoretically politically connected. You're already enemies of Sargavan, so who are you pissing off, right? On the other hand, if you go to Godefroy prison and get Jinnis out, if they can pin it on you or capture you in the process, which is 10 times worse, that has political ramifications, right? It says, look, these guys from Sequin are in line with the traitors from Gallo, and they've demonstrated it by trying to bust this guy out, and suddenly Sequin is now equivalent to it wouldn't be treason because Sequin is its own city, but they would it would absolutely result in the thing you didn't want to have happen, which is Sequin being seen as an enemy.
Right.
On the other hand, if you get away with it, you get Lord Gallo's proxy, and certainly,
Well, see that even
this is a valuable catch.
Right, but even if we do that, I think it does Gallo a disservice because they're going to assume, even if they can't pin it on us, that he had someone break him out. And that's going to strengthen their case against him that he's treasonous to the king because, oh, his guy just got broken out. Who would have done that other than Lord Gallo?
Well, and the idea that Jinnis disappears, you guys disappear, there's blood on the floor, and nobody really knows what happened. I mean, you wouldn't need necessarily Sherlock Holmes to put two and two together on this one.
Right.
unless you could do this in a way that pointed the finger at somebody else.
Right.
So maybe there's opportunities there.
And I think we have to go after Joss worst case scenario, we don't find out anything and he doesn't tell us anything. We're no worse off than we were before. We're still doing this on the way out, so we're leaving town anyway. We just we killed some people that didn't need to be, well, they need to be killed anyway, but anyway. We killed,
Honestly, if you guys left this town without murdering somebody, I'd consider it an affront to my abilities as a DM.
right, that's right. It's been way too long since Arendar's killed someone or killed something.
Well, I know that Wraith has been screaming for blood ever since you guys arrived in this town. So, I mean, yeah.
Right. So yeah, that being said, I think the Joss move couldn't hurt us. And it might net us some evidence or another avenue to pursue later on. But either way, after we do this, we're definitely vacating without breaking what's his name out of prison, because that can only be political suicide for either us and or Gallo.
On the other hand, maybe that boat has already sailed. I mean, you guys were in front of the king this morning. You heard what he said.
I just don't want to add to it. But yeah, I think the Joss thing needs to happen.
So about that time, Balin shows up. He's back. It's about 6:30. You guys are still in the conference room, so you guys don't know that he's here. But a woman comes up, one of the barmaids comes up and says, "Hey, your friend Lord Ballas is here. He's down at the bar, having a drink, and he says when you guys are done, he would welcome a chance to get a table and get some dinner."
No, tell him to come up immediately.
Come up immediately? Okay. All right. So about 2 minutes later, you hear a knock at the door of the conference room, and it's Balin. He's got and so he comes in, and he's like, the door opens, and he's got like 3 bottles of wine, and he's got several cups of glasses and cups. He's like, I don't know why you guys are in a private room as opposed to our things, but I assume drinks are in order. So he comes over and he sort of like plops them down on the thing. He's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I thought I would bring refreshments. So there's like 3 or 4 bottles of wine.
Say, why don't you get our note from Umbridge?
He looks at you. He's like, I'm sorry, what? Let me see it. So he looks at the note, and he's like, so he reads it. It's obviously he reads it, and then he stops, and then he looks up, and then he looks back on it, and he reads it again, and you can see it's almost his head is moving like he's reading every word, right? And he's trying to interpret this, and he's like, show me the case.
We show him the case.
All right. So he looks at it, and he's like, hefts it and that kind of stuff. And he's like, well, if it's not from her, somebody has gone to a great deal of to somewhat great expense to convince us that it is her. He puts the case back down on the table. He says, that silver piece there with the runes on it, it's about 100 years old. And it's worth probably 50 gold pieces in the craftsmanship. This is obviously something that is not. It was sent to us. I won't tell you that it was sent to us from her, but I will tell you that it was sent to us at great expense. Somebody, if it wasn't her, wanted to convince us desperately that it was her.
Okay. Either way, someone knows of our plan, and this is where we'll basically go over with him. Tell him the guy that showed up, and then basically our assessment of it.
Okay.
That this is a trap, and they already know that we thought about going to rescue this guy, but this is going to be a bad deal for both Gallo and us, since someone already knows we're planning on doing it.
Yeah, that's true. That's not great. Well, he says, look, let me tell you what I learned. I talked with Captain Coelho and Wolfram, Dashgaban and Lady Timor's men, and it's cautiously good news. Basically, they said that they think a couple of things. One, their internal, they've been talking with the other proxies and some of the Kingsmen, and basically they think that the 3-day prohibition is cosmetic. He says, look, if we were here on a 4th day, we're not going to be booted out of town. He says he think it's cosmetic, and they think that it was made in haste by the king. And they were basically like, look, you have to understand the king had seen like several things. He's been growing increasingly frustrated with the sort of the machinations of rule, court dates and things like that. He's always disliked it. Now he hates it. And it could be that they think that we were sort of punished for things we didn't do because the king doesn't like doing these kind of things. They also recommend that we go to Duke Gallows if we do choose to leave. They say that we should go to Duke Gallo. They don't believe the claims about Gallo and his guys. And we suspect, and basically they basically said that they think Gallo will be able to convince some of the other lords that this was, that support for Sequin could be had, right? That the king may have made a mistake here. The charter, one of the things they pointed out, and I knew this, but I hadn't thought of it. The charter of the Council of the Nine says that if 6 nobles disagree with the king, the decision of the nobles stands. The king has 3 votes. So the proxies have said that they're going to contact Lady Timor and Lord Dashgaban and offer support where we can. Right now, no, they will say no one is in a position to speak out against the king, but they will counsel that their lords to say to be open-minded and consider this because they think that this was wrong to do it. They also think that this could end up being a waiting game, right? So they think that right now, the death of the king's wife and family is very much weighing on his head. It's only been like 5 weeks since it happened. So it hasn't been a long time, and he's been suffering. They basically think that his marriage to Lady Naaman is a done deal. Essentially, it's going to happen. It'll probably happen in the next 3 to 5 months. And once it happens, they suspect that his erratic behavior will calm down, especially if Lady Naaman can become pregnant quickly. It helps to reestablish the line. It helps to reestablish the order of succession. Again, Magadan has said that he has no interest in being king. At the same time, you can't argue with the book of the book of the 9 lands, right? So I mean, he's there. There's nothing he can do about it. So, but they do tend to agree that Lord Magadan honestly does not want to be the king. These are both good things. And they're hoping that this will sort of thing. The problem is that all of this is going to take time that they don't have, that the Sargavans are taking advantage of, right? So we're in winter now, and the Elite Pass is very difficult. It's traversable, but it's difficult. But in the spring, it's going to be a much easier thing to do to get across. And frankly, by spring, the Sargavans may decide that they don't need King Steppengard's authority to go through the Elite Pass.
They'll just push their way through.
They'll just push their way through. And with Gallo on the outs, basically, at least today, King Steppengard's forces are not going to run down to the Elite Gap to stop the Sargavans. And so he'll have to try and fight them off with what he's got. And we've already talked about, the numbers differential there. But that's where things stand,
I don't know
at least
much
according to them. But he's like, look, we are not without allies. People here are saying, you know, at least for Lady Timor and Lord Dashgaban, their proxies are advising that they not only that they be positive about Sequin, but they advise other lords to be positive about Sequin and consider Sequin seriously. And if they can get 6 votes, then they can overrule the king.
So how do we go about helping get those 6 votes then?
Well, they don't know. They're basically, I mean, from you guys' standpoint, they don't know that there's a way. They're going to lobby as hard as they can with the other proxies and see what they can do. Gallo would normally be, I mean, between Gallo, Timor, and Dashgaban, you would normally have 3 votes there, and all you would need was another 3, and then you'd be able to make it happen. But with Gallo on the outs, they have to look at different opportunities, and the opportunities are not frankly easy. So let's look here, right? So we've got Lady Naaman and Baron Rhaego. They are staunchly anti-Sequin. Lady Timor is now on the side of Sequin. Baron Magadon is on the side of Sequin. Oh wait, no, Dashgaban, Duke Dashgaban is on the side of Sequin. So if you can get Lady Dean and Lord, well, Lord is, I don't know, he's fiercely loyal to the king. But if you can get Dean and Magadon, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 votes. Then you have a problem, right? You have to either convince Lord Is, who's like basically the king's army, or you have to try and convince either Lady Naaman or Baron Rhaego.
I'm thinking we can get Lady Naaman because she's good friends with the elves, and we're also trying to save the elves because if he gets through, they will wipe out the elves. And once I gotta have faith that once what's her name there?
Mm-hmm.
What's the elf's princess's name?
Shalosha.
Shalosha. Once Shalosha has a chance to talk with her, I have to think that she'll realize that the elves and Sequin are in the same boat. And if she's cast against Sequin, she's also casting against her friend that, Shalosha.
Well, that's an excellent case to be made. I mean, if the Sargavans come through the Elite Gap, they're going to destroy the elves. Lady Naaman is a friend of the elves.
So I got to think that she would.
It's possible.
Even if we can't get her on our side, I think it's already done deal. She's on the elf side, and since the elves and Sequin are going to suffer the same fate, I think we got. I mean, not now we don't, but I think once it becomes clear, and especially once Shalosha gets a chance to talk to her, I think she'll just by default be on our side just because she didn't want to see the elves wiped out.
I think that's a realistic thing. If you guys can convince Dane and Magadon and Lady Naaman falls in, that's 6 votes. Then you can overrule the king and deny the Sargavans the Elite Gap. The problem is denying them politically and denying them physically is 2 different things.
And then I'm wondering if we can't get. So Gallo has no troops, but he's got a pass that is super defensible.
Well, Lady Timor has troops.
Right.
Maybe she's. I mean, if what her proxy says is true, and that she's definitely leaning towards Sequin and on the side of Balin and that kind of stuff, which seems to be the indication, maybe she can provide, at least in the short term.
Well,
she can provide additional troops to help defend the Elite Gap.
I know the elves are still fighting a war, but if it means defending themselves, they're good with bows. It's kind of their thing. If we can get them to, hey, can you give us some archers that we can position in a very defensible position to help us keep your flank guarded? I think they might actually send some too.
Maybe the outflow. I mean, maybe the elves will be willing to guard the output of the Elite Gap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wait for them to come out. Duke Dashgaban. The reality is, there's no way he can get troops there fast enough.
Right.
And he does, and Dashgaban doesn't have that many troops. Most of the guys who are warlike in his thing have already sort of gone over to Lord Is, right? So Lord Is the young dwarf. He's the military guy. He's the essentially Steppengard's field marshal, and most of Steppengard's army comes from the lands of Lord Is. Dashkaban's guys, any of them that are like military focused, would have already emigrated south and joined those armies there because that's where the action is. But then there's also, I mean, it's possible that you can get Mwangi assistance. Would the glorious Agala Hosib be willing? They've already been harassing Sargavin 5 Corps from the north in the valleys. I mean, maybe they would be willing to send some Mwangi commando units or something like that into the Elite Gap. It's possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But anyway,
And
that's
maybe
future talk.
I
think
mean, is it possible to go back to Sequin and say, to go to Vorpert and say, give us 500 of your best guys to defend the Elite Gap? I mean, that's what he's ostensibly said he wants to do. I mean, Vorpert's Vorpert's a lot of things, but he's not stupid. He knows that if Sargavin 5 Corps gets through the Elite Gap, he knows that the elves will fall, and he knows that he's next.
mm-hmm.
He may talk a good game in front of the refugees with wooden pikes in their hands with no blades on them, and guys with bows that they made out of yew strings, from the woods. But the reality is, he knows exactly how competent those guys are and how swiftly they will fall. I mean, think about it. I mean, the Sequin Sargavin 5 Corps battle will be much like, sort of the Germanians versus the Roman legions in Caesar's time.
So, like I said, this is future talk again. I want to get back to current.
All right. So
okay.
Balin basically says, look, we have more allies than we realize. There's a lot of people who are still sympathetic to Sequin. They are not in favor, but we're not alone. He says, Timor and Dashkaban are on our side, and I've switched them to green on the map.
Mhm.
They're on our side, but until we can get more people on our side, Lady Dane is a big one. She's got a fairly substantial army, and she's close. Convincing Lady Naaman to join us, and frankly, Balin seems dubious, but possibly, maybe, I don't know. So that being said, he will say that Balin will say, look, I understand that you guys are worried about this, but he goes, I know Jinnis. He's no traitor, and I know he's being treated cruelly, and I know that Gallo, if we're going to go to do Gallows, which I hope we will, if we can bring him Jinnis, I know that they have been close personal friends for the better part of 25 years. If we leave him here to die, is essentially what we're saying. Either to die or to be used as a weapon against him. It will be trouble. He goes, I get what you're saying. It does look like a trap. Wraith, I think your instincts are spot on here. But if we can get him out, I can't help but think that Gallo Gallo will welcome us regardless. But if we bring him his friend and his proxy out of danger, we will be given a hero's welcome, and we will have done him a great service, because Jinnis is no fool, and Jinnis knows there's a great deal going on in Jinnis's head that we don't know. And if we can get him back to Duke Gallo, that will help us. He goes, I know it looks like a trap. I agree with you. It probably is a trap. But if we can get him out, it'll be worth it, in my opinion. I leave it to you. I will abide by your decision. You're my bodyguards, and you're my associates. I will let you make the decision, but that's my feelings on the matter. You guys are curiously quiet.
Yeah.
I'm just
Bondi was all for breaking him out, but some good points were made.
I think
All
Ray's had
right.
some excellent points.
Yeah, but honestly, I mean, Bondi can be easily switched back the other way. Because breaking somebody out of a place where he's being held by, you know,
Evil oppressors.
yeah, oppressors, exactly. That's the word I'm looking for, Mike. I'm all about it. Plus, life is short. Go big or go home. That's Bondi's theory.
I don't like the idea of a possibly innocent man languishing in a jail cell. Not right.
Titus, remind me, did you invisible fly follow that guy or no?
Yes. I'm answering for him, but yeah.
I can't hear him. Do you guys hear him?
He's muted.
Oh, you're muted.
You told me that was the only way I could join the game.
Okay. All right. So you did take off and kind of go follow this guy. All right. So interesting thing. So Rumbrand kind of like he walks out on the street and he's very confident. He seems very thing. The moment he gets on the street, he sort of one of the things that you notice is that he seems to revert back to his sort of initial self, in that he's sort of like shaky, nervous. He's looking around a lot. He moves down to the south. He moves, sort of like begins moving down the roads and that kind of stuff. He goes about 6 blocks, so it's quite a bit of and you see him looking around quite a bit and that kind of thing. He seems nervous. He seems a little tweaked out. And finally, you see him duck into like a little alleyway. And you fly over and you see something very strange. You see 3 Talons. The constable guys are waiting for him. He pulls in and you see him sort of walk up to these guys and they're looking at him and you see him hold out his hands, upon which they slap irons on his hands, basically handcuffs, chains. And then they hook that chain and they basically lead him, and they sort of lead him through a bunch of, if you continue following, which I assume you do, they continue like sort of back streeting him various kinds of places. They stay off a lot of the main thoroughfares. When they're on larger streets, they move fast. And at one point, they actually throw like a coat over the manacles so that they're not obvious to people on the passersby. Eventually, they go to the south end of the city, and they get to a place which looks like it's a low sort of stock building, kind of goes down in the earth. And there's you sort of fly down there and there's a large metal sign on the top of it that says Godefroy Prison. And they take him in there and do not return outside.
No, he was compelled. We also came from the prison.
He basically went back in chains to the prison that everybody says that Ginnis is in. Godefroy Prison is where they say Ginnis is being held. This guy, Rumbrand, went 6 blocks away from you, went in, turned a corner, met a trio of Talons who manacled him, dragged him through the city, and basically led him into the prison where supposedly Ginnis is being captured. They did not take him to the palace where otherwise, Nina Glib-Clamor's, her offices would be in the palace. So he did not go there. He was not. He didn't go anywhere near the Sargavan ambassador's hotel or anything like that. He didn't go anywhere near the Velvet Rose. He was manacled by Talons and taken to Godefroy Prison, which I should say, it would be very interesting if you guys were going to go to Godefroy prison and break out Ginnis. It might be interesting to bring Rumbrand with you as well, find out what exactly he knows.
Right. Well, pretty much anyone in there would probably be beneficial to get information from, but
It is known as a political prison, but rarely used. And that's what you find out, Titus.
All right, I fly home.
Okay.
notice he didn't say back to the hotel. He goes all the way back home. He's like, screw
He
you.
goes all the way back to Sequin.
Screw you.
No, he goes all the way back to Gate Pass. He's like,
Hell with this.
I'm joining the Sargavans. I don't care. All right. So a lot going on. What you guys have to decide is whether or not you're going to break this guy. So you got a couple of decisions. One, you got to break, if yay or nay, break this guy out of prison and take him back to Lord Gallo. Two, when to go. And three, at what point you guys want to sort of begin to recruit more allies? I mean, the proxies say that you got allies. I mean, people are sympathetic to your cause. It's just that the king has just basically slapped you down. But the king is not infallible, and there are political methods to get a different result, I guess.
Mhm.
So I leave it to you guys. What do you guys think?
Already on, roll dice, do things, break them out.
Break him out. Why not?
It's almost 11. We've got time to think.
I
Not much.
don't like to leave a innocent man in jail.
Gordon, what do you think? Wraith, what do you think?
No idea. I'll do what the twins want to do.
Why the twins?
The Wonder
We
Twins.
want to murder people that are against us. That's kind of what the twins want to do.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't want to disagree with you.
Yeah, at this point, I've been sitting on my hands for the entire night.
Yeah.
So if you want me to kill somebody, I'll kill somebody.
This
There's-
doesn't matter.
There he is. There's
I'll
my
kill the
face.
fucking king.
There we go.
I'll kill the
Now
fucking
we're
gnome.
talking.
I tried to be smart, and everybody's like, "Oh no, we can't leave this asshole in prison." Okay, we can go to a prison that knows we're coming, and they're lightly guarded until we get there. Whatever, I'll kill anybody that you put in front of me until they either kill me or they die. That's the way it works.
Right.
Okay.
Trying to collect intel and make a good decision is impossible.
Yeah.
Weirdly, people are like deceptive.
Yeah. And with 30 and 35 cents motives, they're still fucking obtuse.
They are obtuse. I'll give you that.
That's a little frustrating, I must say too.
Well, I'm
I
trying to
would
give
do
you.
a
I'm
sense
trying.
motive on the DM, but it seems like he just like to talk.
Auto fail. No.
Yeah.
Well, I do like the sound of my own voice. I will give you that.
Up to no good is that motive.
Yeah.
All right. It's 11.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll stop there. But
Yep.
next time we play, let's roll some damage dice.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So you got a couple of choices. Before we go, you got a couple of choices. One, go to the prison, not go to the prison. Two, bail from town, not bail from town. Three, go after Joss. Don't go after Joss. There's a lot of options there. You could wreak a lot of havoc as you leave this glorious dwarven city and head for theoretically, Lord Gallo at Gallowfend.
Option 4, put the king out of his fucking misery.
Ooh, that would be trouble, but
Everything is
possible.
trouble.
He would have a Sargovan thing on his name tag when he
Yeah.
did it.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's I mean,
Or we could
what's the
go visit
reality?
the
If they're tricking you, trick them right back, man.
We could go visit the Sargovan diplomats and murder all of them.
Could do.
Then go visit the gnome chick and murder her.
Also could do.
Just murder everybody.
Trick me, trick you.
But
It would
roll
have to.
some,
It would
roll
have to
some
happen pretty
fucking
quickly.
dice next time.
Okay, that works for me.
Yeah.
All right,
Hey.
y'all good?
Yeah.
Lots to think about.
Interesting. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Good game.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, guys. Huh?
You got a few minutes?
Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me stop the recording.